What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's another great episode of Liam Picks Fights, brought to you by Prize Picks. That's the easiest game in all of DFS. If you're looking to get involved, all the information is in the description box below. You go to prizepicks.com, you put in my promo code Liam, and they're going to deposit match you 100% up to $100. And then what you do is you pick any two props. I gave out a few of my favorite Prize Picks looks on Pub Sports Radio earlier this week. So guys, if you're interested in my picks, go ahead and find them there on Pub Sports Radio. I did a Prize Picks video with them. Very good plays. I put in the money myself. I played it myself. So if you're looking to follow, if you're looking to fade, either way, go ahead and check that out. And I hope that you guys win, whether you're rocking with me or going against me. But guys, with that being said, we have an amazing show ready for you once again. It's UFC London, another great card to break down. Starting in the heavyweight division, we have a main event classic, right? A wrestler, a grappler. We've got Tom Aspinall, BJJ black belt, the hometown guy. He's taking on Curtis Blaydes, coming overseas, looking to stake his claim at the top of the heavyweight division. He says, I'm not asking for a title fight next. I'm asking for the winner of another big heavyweight clash. So this is a guy who is really trying to make his path in the heavyweight division by taking out contender after contender, earning that respect because he has a few losses in the division. Should be an excellent night of fights. And guys, you know I got to bring along the horsemen. I can't do this alone. We got two of the best in the business rocking with us now. Our man Gordo's in flight. He's cashing tickets. He's taking flights. He's doing all that. You know that Gordo can't be contained or held down, but when he lands, he's going to get on the show as well. But we've got two great guests to kick us off, starting with my man Wizz Bets, king of the NRFI. He's back on the program. He's been a staple lately, and we just can't stop winning with him. So, Wizz, we couldn't help but have you back. My friend, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Liam? As always, thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm doing well, brother. And it was not Dawoon Jung Bigley, but just about everything else that we thought was going to come to pass ends up coming to pass last week. It ended up being quite good. I saw all the smart people in the chat going to war about that Shane Burgos fight. All I will say is there is no quit in New York. Section 9, 2 shall rise. Tried to warn you guys about Shane Burgos and that heart and that attitude. It was a hell of a close fight. We were lucky to cash the ticket by the skin of our teeth. All credit to Charles Jourdain. But like I said in my analysis, it wasn't a fade on Charles Jourdain. He will be back, but it's Shane Burgos' time, and he too shall rise. So big shout out to Shane Burgos. Big shout out to the sharpest chat in the game. Appreciate all you guys being here. 68 people rocking with us live to start off at midnight in the East. So appreciate you guys for sticking around. We did get started 5 minutes later, but you know me. And you know this man, Lou Betcha, the MMA engine himself. He's back on the program. He's back once again, king of the yam bags. Lou, how you feeling, my brother?
You bet against Factory X? Not such a good move. Jacoby season, baby. We all killed it last week. What more is there to say? We all crushed it. Burgos came through. The Leech season came through. Main event kind of, was what it was, but couldn't get that Waterson round 3 sub, but we tried. And I see Gordo in the chat saying he is on his way. I think he's piloting the plane, so he's ready to go. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. These Canadians, you never know what they're capable of, and he's one of the very best. So with that being said, guys, we got 14 fights. There's no time to dilly-dally today. We can get right into it. We've got a fight that's going to take place in the 170-pound division, welterweight, and it should be a very contentious fight here. You got on one side Nicholas Dalby, and to be honest with you, he's a guy who's really struggled in the UFC overall. He kind of got just a little bit of a gift of a win over Daniel Rodriguez, in my opinion. He's lost, to aging, fading legends, guys that we really like to watch fight, and they've been around the game for a long time, like Tim Means, but really we just saw Kevin Holland handled him accordingly, a little bit different type of style. Whereas Nicholas Dalby, he's kind of the same ilk, right? He's 37 years of age. He's dealt with some problems outside the cage, publicly and otherwise. You see it on his Instagram quite recently as well. So there's some reason, I think, to be skeptical overall of Dalby moving forward, and especially when you're being asked to pay such a huge indication. I do think that the ABCs say always bet on cardio, and if that's your argument, I get it, because Nicholas Dalby, plain and simple, has the better cardio in this matchup. But I do think there's some really glaring facts on the other side that you got to consider. 2-4-1 is his record against UFC level southpaws. The guy is not very equipped to deal with southpaws. And you can say what you will about my man Silva's striking. It's not very good, but it's committed. He comes out swinging early, and he has hurt guys in the UFC before. He has club and sub people. So I don't think that that's completely outside the realm. I think that Dalby's durability can be called into question. And I think that, this could be the kind of fight where it's one takedown and it's over. I think it also could go the way where Dalby defends some chokes, he outlasts him, and he comes back to win. But I do think if he puts himself in dangerous positions early as a massive favorite, that's somebody I want to get on the dog or pass on the fight. So I will not be playing any Nicholas Dalby this weekend, that's for sure. Wizz, how do you feel about this, brother?
Yes, so I echo some of the same feelings. I'm not picking a side here, that's for sure. My main read on this fight, I had to do some Instagram digging because obviously when you look at the tape, you're going to see that, okay, you have the favorable cardio with Dalby, a little bit of inactivity from both gentlemen, which leaves things a little vague. And then I see this post that Dalby posted not too long ago, and it was mentioning how he's been going through some stuff and he didn't want to specifically say what it was, and that he's been down and he wasn't too optimistic about his future in MMA, but things are going a little bit better for him. So you don't really know where his mental space is at. That's one thing that worries me. Another thing, I don't think he should be this big of a favorite against too many people in the UFC. I'm not going to say anyone, but you get what I mean. I think Claudio Silva, if you do want to bet that dog side, you probably want to go with the sub because I think that's his only path to victory here. I don't see him winning a decision. I don't see him knocking Dalby out. But at the end of the day, you never know where Dalby's head is at after that post. That's what really pushed me off of this fight. I'm not a big fan of either of the guys, so it's a pass for me. But like I said, if you want to bet that Claudio Silva side, just take the sub. It's not worth the. I mean, it's worth getting cute for.
Would you believe me if I told you that Nicholas Dalby was 3-3 as a UFC favorite for an average return of -33% ROI on your investment? Would you believe me if I told you that? It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's one thing to take into account too. It's if someone's not trusted as a favorite, what do you expect from him to do at a -275 average around the market a couple days ago?
What do you reckon? What do you reckon his average odds have been in the UFC so far? He's been an average of -111, and he's 6-4 in the UFC. So you think, oh, okay, that's pretty solid. But then you look and you say, oh, wait, it's 3-1 as an underdog and 3-3 as a favorite. So when this guy's been a big favorite, it's been -220 and up on average, and he's 3-3. So half the time he's fumbling the bag for you. And that's just not good enough at a 70+% indication, in my opinion.
Not at all.
But Lou, perhaps you feel differently, my brother.
I can't take a side here. The one thing I'm looking at is fight goes the distance. It's -110, -120, depending on your book. I do think if there's any finish equity, it's on the Silva side, but I don't trust his cardio. And Dalby, aside from that very bizarre Ronson fight, has had some good durability. His cardio is decent. He's good at just kind of having these boring fights where he keeps it at distance and just pecking away with jabs. So if it plays out like I think, Silva's going to be dangerous in the first, but Dalby should just kind of keep him at distance. This will stay on the feet in the second and third. I think Dalby decision's okay, but I'm not getting to him at this price. But I think the over -110 is decent. I mean, it's an all right look if you just want to have a bet on the first fight of the card, but I'm not on this one or the next fight in terms of I'm not getting to the window here.
Yeah, I totally understand that perspective. Dalby, like you mentioned, is not really known for his finishing abilities. And I think that his basic path to a finish would be to just out cardio this man to the extent that he literally can't continue anymore. So maybe you look for a round 3 if you're interested in that side. But yeah, I think that Silva represents a potential live underdog in the first fight of the night, just because I can't trust Dalby at such a significant chalk price. But with that being said, we move to a fight that really seems to be, the talk of the town for whatever reason. I wasn't inspired by my cursory glance at this fight, so I was like, I'll let you guys battle it out for the most part. I think that Boehm in terms of narrative purposes, she's the local fighter. She's being set up to have, a bounce back of sorts here. She's basically spent a year outside the octagon, and she came in and had what we call a classic underperformance. It's like people in a UFC debut don't tend to look very good. And the one thing that stood out to me is that obviously Victoria Leonardo has fought the higher level of competition. She's fought the Miranda Mavericks regionally, I believe twice, once in like a one-round exhibition, but then she also got armbarred real quick in 2018. That was a brutal assault there. Miranda Maverick just levels ahead in the grappling. And so I think that, this is a fight where I don't expect Boehm to be levels ahead of her in the grappling, but I do think that, Victoria Leonardo, I know that there's some circumstances, the arm break, but all of her losses are inside the distance. I think that that's a little concerning. Just shows that you can get her out of there. You can land shots on her. You can submit her. Like, there's different ways to get her out of a fight as well. So I think that that's a problem for me at this point, right? Like, if you got in on the early numbers, then maybe you're feeling good about that, but as far as I'm concerned, at this stage, it's almost a pick 'em. The line has been really, really affected by betting action. And I do know some sharp players that were interested in the plus money on Victoria Leonardo here. But for me, this is just a clear pass fight, and I'll let the rest of the market decide. And maybe something will stand out to me. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on their tape tonight for my full article breaking down the fights. But I do think that this stood out to me as a pass fight off the rip. Wizz, how do you feel?
Yeah, so in this fight, you have one fighter who's technically a kill or be killed fighter in Victoria Leonardo, and then Mandy Boehm, who's just been a little bit underwhelming in her UFC start, which obviously you don't want to see. I don't really have a side. If I was able to catch that plus 140, plus 135 line on Leonardo, I wouldn't mind taking the shot, but at the end of the day, it's low-level women's MMA, and I don't want to really have too much equity in that side of things. No disrespect at all. One spot that I like for a pretty decent price is the under 2.5. I think since Leonardo is known to get finished, I think Mandy Boehm has a clear path to possibly like knocking her out or ground and pound. Seen her ground game a little bit with those ground and pound. It's not that bad at all. And I think Leonardo also has some finish equity in this fight as well. So I think that under 2.5 is not a bad look at all. But in terms of a side at these prices at minus 105 and minus 115, I would rather pass and save some equity for other fights.
Fair enough. And there's nothing wrong with passing. Dollar saved is a dollar earned. Lou, how do you feel about this one?
I mean, the steam on this line is pretty crazy for this fight. I just want to make it, I have no action on this either. I just want to make it a point that fighting the better competition in the UFC, but not being competitive, doesn't really like move the needle for me. Like, it's not something I look at. Like, if you're competitive with better level competition, I'm interested, but I don't think Leonardo's shown me anything on this level. And Boehm, I saw an interview with Boehm where she's claiming that, jitters, and I understand that, but she's very inactive. She's even on a regional fight. She's not like, she waits too long. She waits too long. And like, so your equity here is Leonardo going to be able to go forward and get to her? Or because if she doesn't, if Leonardo's more passive and she's coming off getting her arm broken, we're going to have a lot of standing around. And I see what Wizz is saying about the under. I would just rather, there's a lot of other bets I like on this card. So I'm off this one completely too. And if you had Leonardo at a good price, that's great. She's going to be the favorite by Saturday. She's going to be minus 115 by Saturday. So at some point, Boehm becomes the equitable side, but not for me on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely trending that way already. I think that it's already minus 110 across most of the market. Double checking here on best fight odds as we speak, because they normally highlight that best price that's available. And right now, I'm seeing plus 102 is the best remaining price on Victoria Leonardo, and Mandy Boehm, you're looking at a minus 110 on Bet Online. So offshores currently have the best price on the Boehm side. So very interesting line movement there. Very aggressive line movement there as well. Like you mentioned, big action must be coming the way of the underdog, and or it could be that we're seeing a little bit of movement on steam. movement on the opinion of the odds maker. Library says he thinks could be the first German champion. So there you go. Mandy Boehm, a fighter with potential. Now, with that being said, we can move along, guys. We got a 155-pound fight. Jai Herbert's back pretty surprisingly quickly, I would think, given the severity of that knockout. I mean, one of the best knockouts of the year, certainly. One of the best knockouts I can recall, from a body shot to a headshot, just very good fluidity of striking from Ilia Topuria, but it's not without its bright spots for Jai Herbert. He did land a massive head kick there, almost floored Topuria, who's much higher level fighter than somebody like Kyle Nelson. However, both these guys fight with a style that leaves uncertainty. I don't think you can be very confident necessarily in Jai Herbert. Yes, I think he's a better fighter. Yes, I think he is a overall more well-suited lightweight, right? Kyle Nelson doesn't necessarily have the frame of a normal UFC lightweight, but I must say, you don't want to go based on, Instagram physique and all this, but truly, Kyle Nelson looks like a transformed athlete. Take that for whatever it's worth, but the guy's been putting in some kind of work. And it's one of these occasions where he said, basically the UFC told him he's a free agent. He could go fight elsewhere, but we might have something for you down the road. This is the thing they had for him down the road. So you'd assume that the UFC is not putting him here because they want him to win. But it's Jai Herbert, and he lets people back into fights at times. If he doesn't get the finish, I think that Kyle Nelson will still be swinging heavies until his cardio completely abandons him at the 8-minute mark. But we're also at 155, which is a little bit of a known unknown. How is his cardio at 155? Could be hard. It could be hard for him to carry around more weight. He could gas out even faster. He could be done in 3 minutes, like Luke Rockhold at 205. Or it could go the other way, where now he doesn't cut the weight. He feels a lot better, and he's got the cardio to go 8, 10, 12 minutes. I think that that's an interesting look. But I do think that Kyle Nelson, as he starts to slow down, makes more mistakes, and I think that will leave him susceptible standing and on the ground. He does shoot takedowns. That is a path to getting some control time, some top minutes here. But if he's starting to gas out and shooting bad takedowns from far away, I do think Jai Herbert, he's got long arms. He will attempt subs every now and again. So I don't think he wants to do that recklessly from the outside. He's going to have to set up his takedowns here. And it's just a little bit of an unknown. I will say he looks good. He's pictured with Mike Malott, another Canadian who's been making some noise. And I forget the name of their gym off the top of my head. It's like Champions Den or something like this in Canada. Very, very good. They've been making some noise in the UFC. So I think that as far as Canadian prospects go, I'm more interested in stuff that's coming out of their gym. Wizz, how do you feel?
So this fight's interesting. On one hand, you're thinking about that brutal KO that Jai Herbert just suffered not too long ago. And you're like, how did this guy possibly recover from that quick? So that's a worry on the Herbert side. And he's been knocked out before as well. And then you look at Nelson, a little bit of a wishy-washy layoff. And then he kind of looks like he went on a little bit of a TRT cycle. So that physique looks really nice. And another Instagram bit.
No, you must not have heard. He ate asparagus and he said his prayers and he went to bed on time.
He had the Popeye diet. And another deep dive in an Instagram here. I saw Kyle Nelson got married a week ago or something. So who knows what happened during his training camp, how serious he was taking it. So that's another worry. If you want to bet this fight, you're either going to have to take Kyle Nelson round 1 KO, or you're going to take Jai Herbert round 2 KO. That's the only way I see this fight playing out. Hindsight, I can look stupid saying this, but to me, I don't see any other outcome, just because I think Kyle Nelson is going to gas after throwing Hail Marys, being at a 6-inch reach disadvantage, and then a 2-inch height disadvantage. That's just adding on to it. So I think in the first round, he's just going to be swinging Hail Marys after seeing Herbert get knocked out brutally last fight. He's going to gas out himself if he doesn't land anything clean. And then in the second round, Herbert's just going to lay it on him after he sees all these openings and knock him out. That's a side I'm favoring. I think Herbert's going to get it done, but who knows? Do I want to trust the fighter at minus 275 who just got knocked out brutally this year? Probably not. He folded like a chair, and we rarely see knockouts like that in the UFC. So if you want to play either side, that's my way of playing it. A little bit of a Timothy Troiano shout out there.
You remember when I thought I was slick betting on Tafon and Chukwi plus 100? I was like, well, he closed minus 140. And then it's one punch later. We're wrapping it all up. So, yeah, I will not be laying the minus 275 on Jai Herbert here, but potentially looking at some angles on violence because I do think both these guys bring a pretty frenetic pace most of the time. So maybe a fight doesn't go the distance if I could find the right number that appeals to me. But with that being said, guys, just wanted to shout it out on the way out. House of Champions MMA in Ontario. That is the name of the gym. Mike Malott, Diana Belbita, not necessarily as high on her as the market, but still she's, very pretty girl and works very hard, good fighter on the rise. So I think the overall pretty good gym there on the come up, and wanted to give them that respect. With that being said, we can move to the next fight here. We've got Charles Johnson.
All right.
The big Lou, please, my man, give us your take.
Fight doesn't start round 3. Let's move it along.
Well, there you go. Then you agree with me.
Fight doesn't start round 3.
Violence is a lot safer than
minus
the favorite here, right?
Minus 160 on FanDuel. Fight doesn't start round 3.
That's fair. Well, made it quick and easy. We've got a fight that I'm going to make it quick and easy, boys. I didn't end up betting this fight. I do think that Mokaev is probably going to win. But I don't love the margins here. He is a young guy. He's younger than me. Don't love that. But I do think that, one of the things I like to do is listen to how people's teammates talk about them, because sometimes you hear them reveal really big problems, right? Like Chris Curtis saying before the Strickland and Pereira fight, he's like, I really hope Sean goes out there and grapples. We keep telling him to go out there and grapple. It's like, oh, that's a big red flag. Like his teammates basically telling me, they're trying to talk him into it. And he's like, no, I don't need to. I'll go do whatever. Whereas, I think that as far as I'm concerned, like the Mokaev side here, I think he's going to get takedowns. I think he's going to win the fight. I think the crowd's going to be extremely biased in his favor. I think that if anybody has more finishing upside, especially in the early rounds, it's probably him, because I think he's going to be in the more dominant positions. So, yeah, I have to favor him outright in the fight. Like, I think he's going to win this fight. Do I think he's going to cover the price? There, I'm not necessarily sure. I don't know that he's going to cover this price. I think that Charles Johnson is a talented fighter. I saw the fight with Carlos Mota. I do think we have to see a little bit more where their careers progress to. We don't want to get overboard either with saying like, oh, this guy, he's winning fights in the LFA, so he's a lock to be, the next thing in the UFC. We've seen a lot of people bust out from that role as well, where they come in with a regional title and we expect a lot from them, and then they underperform. So we got to be cognizant of that too. But I do think that we don't want to get out over our britches here either and say Mokaev's an absolute lock, because, what if he slips on a banana peel? What if the crowd gets to him, at 21 years of age? Or what if he makes one mistake, gets caught up, and loses the position to somebody who's a bigger, older guy? I think that those are all some concerns on the Mokaev side. But I think that the UFC knows what they're doing. When they matchmake these fights, they're looking for people that can help build their stars. And I think that they view Mokaev as a potential star in the division. And I think they view Charles Johnson as a guy who that they could develop. They could have in a lot of competitive fights. They could put him on a fight night and guarantee it's going to be a slobber knocker with anybody. But I'm not sure that they're necessarily trying to put their marketing dollars behind him. So I think they're saying, hey, before this guy, Charles Johnson's too good and whatever, let's get this now when we know he's exploitable with the takedowns. We've got a prospect we want to build up that's got a lot of takedowns and grappling upside. I think that's what they're trying to set up here. But for me, I just don't have the confidence interval to back him at this stage. But if that changes, I'll let you guys know. Wizz, what do you think, my brother?
Man, I've seen a lot of people that are really confident on Charles Johnson, and I just don't really get it. I've heard that he's been popping into these spaces on Twitter and talking about, oh yeah, I've trained with this guy. I've won these sparring sessions with him, and I know his holes. And I mean, he could. I don't think so though. When you're seeing someone that's frequently engaging with a community during his fight week and the week prior, it's like, how much is this guy in his head? It seems like he's quite affected by either some of the trash talk that Mokaev has been doing, or some of the predictions that he's been saying, like round 2 sub, or round 2 he's going to finish him, or something like that. I'm pretty sure Mokaev is going to win. Not sure whether it's going to be a sub or a decision. I'm leaning towards the sub in the later rounds, probably like round 3, just because I'm not too impressed with Charles Johnson's grappling. I know the guy hasn't been finished before, but his last fight in LFA was just not that good. It was not. And it didn't impress me at all. Some people may have different takes. I didn't bet this fight because a lot of these fights on this card are a little bit tough to bet, because for me, as a defensive type of bettor and gambler, I don't like to take a lot of these props and like, okay, round 3 sub sprinkles. It's like, I'll do it every here and there, but for me, it's like I would rather break even at the end of the night than lose like a unit or 2 off of just like random stuff. So I have no bet on this fight at all, but I do think Mokaev is going to win pretty comfortably. I think he's just going to execute his grappling game plan to the T.
Interesting. Lou, how do you feel, brother?
Let's make it 3 for 3. I mean, I want to like him too. Like, there's some Victor Henry vibe about him. Like, he's been waiting for his shot, but he's outlasting guys in LFA more than like dominating a fight and getting a late finish. Like, he's just kind of outlasting and pitter pattering his shots. Like, he's got some power here. I mean, we don't know his takedown defense. The problem is there's so much about Mokaev. A lot of questions need to be answered. I don't think this is the opponent, though. I think it's takedown after takedown after takedown. I do think he gets a submission. The submission props plus 180. That's perfectly reasonable for this fight. I don't think he's going to get a knockout, just because I don't think that's the path that makes sense for Mokaev here. So give me the sub plus 180. I'm not playing a round prop. I think that's a perfectly good price for a guy who was very questionable takedown defense. But I contemplated, do I want to even entertain a live bet here if Johnson can have some success to takedowns? But I just don't see how it's worth it here. I think Mokaev is the youth, the strength. He's got a strength advantage. His technique's good. I mean, everybody's like he's 6-0, but like he's got a ton of amateur fights. Like this guy's not a normal 6-0 guy. So it's Mokaev sub or pass for me. I'm going to get to the window on the sub. I'm going to lay off the round props though.
Cool beans, man. I think that's fair. I mean, most often when you see a finish in the UFC, it takes place in the very first round. And, people don't always talk about that. Sometimes we do like to get too cute by looking at like the method and the round and all. It's hard enough to figure out one of those things, much less all of those things. And you have to remember, it's a parlay. If you say I'm doing the method and the round, that's just the same thing as doing a parlay of 2 different outcomes. That's the reason why you're getting such big results. You need both of them to come through. So just keep that in mind when you're betting into those method markets. Don't want to get out over your skis. And with that being said, guys, we've got a very fun fight here between Makwan Amirkhani, and he's taking on Jonathan Pierce, JSP. This is a fun one, man. I'm going to kick it to you guys first. I do have an opinion on this fight. I think that this is another reason why 145 pounds could be so much fun. These are 2 guys that are probably not, within 5 spots of the rankings, but they're game. They're going to come out there and get into a fight early and often. And I think it should be hell on wheels while it lasts. Wizz, what do you think, brother?
All right. I know I was talking to you guys about my take a little bit earlier on in the week. I think it was Sunday night or Monday night. I think I've switched a little bit after watching more tape. Man, does Jonathan St. Pierce put his neck in very, very optimal positions for it to get choked out. And I wonder who he's going against. The guy that probably has about the most choke submissions in the UFC. Man, Amirkhani can do some damage with those front chokes, those guillotines, the darces, anacondas, whatever you want. And to be honest, the exact way I see this taking place is Jonathan Pierce going in for takedowns constantly, because he uses his cardio as a weapon, and he does tend to fade towards the 3rd round if this does even last there. but the way he enters his takedowns is just like, all right, he's just headbutting the person straight into the cage. And when you do that, your neck is just wide open, man. We've seen it way too many times in his past couple fights where his neck is just completely exposed and he just hasn't been facing the type of submission artist that Amirkhani is. And one thing that Amirkhani was talking about is in the past year and a half, he's been a lot more focused on his training. He hasn't been clubbing or partying as much. So I'm hoping that his gas tank is a little bit more improved. I was kind of impressed with his last win. So I think he can get it done again by sub, probably round 1 again. But yeah, I would rather take the dog here, and I'm probably going to take a Amirkhani sub prop here.
Amirkhani's got what I call the cigarette cardio, and he's got the best cigarette cardio in the UFC, man. I really believe that. Like, this guy will come out for 6 minutes and bring a hellacious pace and then just die a slow, hysterical death. I love it. I love it. I mean, the way he's one of my favorite fighters.
Yeah, the way he was controlling Laurent Murphy in that first round was nuts. Laurent Murphy couldn't even move. He couldn't even get out. He was just struggling until, that flying knee. So
that was kind of a meme too. Like, I do think that's like pretty low percentage, man. If he didn't land that knee, I would not have been surprised if Makwan dosed him there. But allegedly, he got knocked out. I didn't watch. I shut my eyes right before that happened and never went back to see. So, yeah, tough night to have a Makwan ticket. What do you think, brother?
I'm on the other side of this. I'm on Pierce round 2 knockout at plus 850 and Pierce in the distance. I'm not getting burned by Mr. Finland again, no matter how sexy his picture is on Tapology. Like, not getting burned by this guy. And I think this fight will play out similarly to the Laurent Murphy fight, where he's going to have success as they go to the grappling. I think on the feet, I do think Pierce has an advantage. I think he can just position him against the cage and start wearing him out too. Pierce did look like he was getting tired against Christian Rodriguez, but in general, I'll take Pierce's 2-round cardio over Mr. Finland's 4-minute cardio all day. And honestly, like, I think you look at his last fight against Grundy, like, okay, he won. I believe it was the 7th fight in UFC history with no strikes landed, which is kind of amazing. Grundy just dove right into it. There was no, like, it wasn't even like, you didn't have to do anything. Dove right into the choke. That was the end of the fight. Could Pierce do that? Yeah, it's, he's defensively irresponsible at times, but I've got to think that's all they've been working on in camp is, like, literally the one thing you can't do is that. Like, you cannot duck your head into him. Like, it's the one thing you can't do. If Pierce survives the first round, I don't see how he doesn't have, like, he's going to look like minus 500 at that point. Just cardio wise, not skill set wise, but cardio wise. And I think it's just a matter of time for Pierce just wears him out. If you want to play Pierce round 3, that's great. The time props here under 2.5 is great, but I think this is Pierce. And I understand why people are going to take the dog shot. Like, I understand it, but I feel like Pierce just has to stay out of one situation, whereas Pierce can be competitive on the ground. On the feet, he's going to be the better guy, and he has the cardio weapon. So Pierce in the distance, and specifically round 2 KO for me.
I can't hate any of that, my friend. I think that makes a good heap of sense. I will just point out that I did take this a different way. Similar price is what you can get right now. It's about plus 800 for Makwan to win by sub in round 1. And it's just like, if you're playing Makwan, if you think Makwan's going to win the fight, I would always suggest you just take that as like a nice little pairing. It's like a wine and cheese, if you will, because Makwan that's what he does. He's going to look for that sub in round 1. He's extremely dangerous. He can wrestle. So I would not be surprised if he took Pierce down here. Pierce comes from a wrestling background, but Makwan also comes from a wrestling background, and he's extremely strong, very physical for the division. He's got a proven UFC track record at this point. He could beat UFC level guys, and he can compete with guys that are even better than him, like better athletes, better prospects. He can throw those guys around. Shane Burgos, good wrestler, very solid. We saw it the other day. His grappling is very on point. Makwan Amirkhani threw him every which way but loose for 4.5 minutes and then completely died. And I knew he was going to die in that fight because he was using all his strength. I think we've seen him do a better job using more technique in recent bouts. I don't think it's all been strength. And I don't think we've been able to see him show that his cardio's made some improvements because he died in the Lerone Murphy fight. I thought he was about to. And the Grundy fight, he never had a chance because Grundy was instantly asleep. So I think that that's always a live possibility when Makwan Amirkhani is fighting. Somebody could go to sleep very quickly. And I do think that Pierce probably has some stand-up upside, but I also think that Makwan Amirkhani is not to be slept on. You know, I do think that people forget this guy boxed competitively with Edson Barbosa before he completely death-gassed. And that's just a feature of his fights. So it's definitely an ABC say, always bet on cardio. But for me, it's just a little bit of a steep price on JSP, who hasn't really beaten anybody of note yet in the UFC. And his one big step-up fight was a classic letdown spot, we can say, for sure, his UFC debut in Boston, nonetheless, against Joe Lozon. However, getting massacred by Joe Lozon at this stage of the game is a red flag, in my opinion. It doesn't happen to many guys at this stage. So I do think that that's a potential, chicken that could come home to roost. I know a lot of people are interested in the sub here, but if Makwan gets on top of him and just powers into the mount, are you going to be surprised? I'm not going to be surprised, just because in the first round, he's an absolute physical beast. So I think that Makwan early or JSP late, I think it's a plant your flag type of fight, and nothing wrong with that. So we've got takes on different sides. That's why we assemble this panel, guys. We want you guys to have the whole picture, and there's reasons to take both sides of a bet. And in this case, there's people on both sides, but I kind of prefer Makwan and potentially getting that sub in the early going of this contest. So that was one of the plays I was looking at when it was 10-1 earlier in the week. So that being said, next fight on the card, man, we do not have to spend much time on this one, boys, because I feel like this one's a little bit cut and dry. I like Charles Rosa, but this is probably his last UFC fight, and it's probably overdue. If he wins this fight, God bless him. I just have made too many donations to the Charles Rosa Fund over the years. The guy has never decided to win a fight for me. There's been chances. Damon Jackson, he's got this guy bleeding from a freaking hole in his head, like a bullet wound, and he can't just focus on punching him in the face. He instead goes for every sub, greases himself up in blood, and falls all over the place. I was like, dude, you can't even win a fight that you already won. I don't know how to help you, bro. So I just think that Charles Rosa, he's very low level for the modern UFC. He's got a pretty basic guard game. And when you get past his armbar series, he gives his back and he rolls to turtle and he resets and he does it all again. And he gives you a head and arm choke and he rolls through it and you don't finish it. And he puts himself in the same reactive sequences in every fight. It's insane. And anybody, they just start putting him in head and arm chokes like it's nobody's business. This guy's a black belt. I don't know what happened to his offensive grappling, but it's just non-existent. And I think that, Nathaniel Wood talking about a setup fight, they were like, yo, Charles, this is the only way you can keep your job in the company. You want to come fight this guy? Because Nathaniel Wood, he's been struggling to get a fight. I think at 145, he's going to give up some of his size that he was bringing to bantamweight, but I do think he's going to retain some speed here at 145. I think he's going to be much faster than somebody like Charles Rosa who's stuck in the mud. But I also think Charles got a kind of unorthodox game. He's a little bit weird. He's a little bit tricky. I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to weasel his way to the scorecards here. I also wouldn't be surprised if he got finished because he's really suspect in terms of his stand-up striking. He has okay defense in the sense that he can sometimes move in and out of range before strikes are thrown. But if you're in range with Charles Rosa, he just gets hit by everything. His hands are down. He does not have good posture. He does not have good hand position. He doesn't have, basics of slipping and head movement. And he's in his mid-30s, so he's not going to change that. He's going to come out and look the same. I thought in his last fight he was going to show a better performance. He just never does. He just shows the same stuff every time. So if he proves me wrong here, God bless him for it. But he's a massive, massive underdog, and I think it's for good reason. I think Nathaniel Wood is being set up here to win an easy fight. He's 14-7. He's batting 66% as a pro. I just don't think that's going to cut it much longer in the UFC. Wizz, what do you think?
Man, can I even break this down even better than you did? Because I don't think I can. It's very cut and dry. I think this is a clear setup fight for Wood. he is better than Rosa everywhere by a mile, in my opinion. Rosa's ground game is non-existent. Rosa's striking is very low level, in my opinion. And then I just don't see this guy winning in any which way. Like, he barely lands punches sometimes, and I'm just very questionable as to how he's still in the UFC. And obviously the odds indicate this. A minus 525 favorite right now, around that range. It's pretty cut and dry. But I think what's his name wins. I blanked out there. Wood wins by decision. I think he just drowns him with the grappling for 3 rounds straight. And obviously, I mean, Rosa hasn't been submitted all that often, but he just finds his way to.
Dude, he's impossible to submit. Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Lays like this with his arms together, and he doesn't let anything go. But he's comfortable just laying like this on the floor. He doesn't want to move. He doesn't want to give the opportunity to get sub. He's comfortable losing a decision. So that's the way I think it's going to go. Wood by decision.
He has the best head and arm choke defense in the UFC. I'll put that on ice. This man cannot be submitted in a head and arm choke. It's impossible. It's just not. It's not plausible. I've seen black belt after black belt. Bryce Mitchell literally went rotate to rotate, side to side. He just was like, I think it's impossible.
Crazy. It's
the guy's invincible, but he just can't win a fight. Lou, what do you think? Can he win a fight? Am I wrong?
No, but like you were asking, what does he do well? And what I was going to say is what he does really well is like he's indestructible in terms of getting finished. Like I go back to the Damon Jackson fight, like, and I understand he bloodied Damon Jackson up, but Damon Jackson was just whatever he wanted in that fight for 15 minutes.
He cheats like a moth too. That's the other thing. Make no mistake about it. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Charles Rosa will cheat for your money. That's 100%.
The old Eddie Guerrero phrase. But he's good at like not quitting. Like he's tough. And it's like, Wood's decision is minus 160. I think that's reasonable. This is a complete setup fight. You're saying you think this is Charles Rosa's last fight? I mean, if there's another guy they can set him up with, like just as like a, in wrestling, we used to call, the jobbers that like open the show. Like if there's another guy they can just feed him to, I think he has a role there, but he doesn't have a competitive role in the company. But again, he doesn't get finished. It's like crazy how he doesn't get finished too, because it's not even just every fight that he's in trouble. Like 3 times a round, it's like, it's done. It's getting choked out. It's over. And then the next thing you know, it's like he gets the arm out of his chin and he like survives it and somehow keeps lasting. So I like Wood decision here. I mean, I actually like it as a bet a lot. I don't see another.
I think a lot of people are on that, but I just worry, man, that like if Wood doesn't decide to grapple with him, he's just going to beat the shit out of him because like Charles really can't strike at a UFC level, in my opinion.
But he can eat it, but he can take it. But that's the thing is he can take it, which is the crazy thing.
Can he though, dude? Like he's been, so many of his fights have been spent like all the time in grappling. I do think.
What about the BearJew fight? I mean, it was a volume. I don't know, but he's getting popped.
I mean, he got sat down in the third round.
But he got popped. But it took getting popped a lot of times. Like it's the guy.
I know, but Shane's not even the biggest hitter in the division.
No, he's a volume.
I don't know though. I mean, this isn't. I mean, Nathaniel Wood. Geez, he's the furthest thing from the biggest hitter in the division. So
yeah, I think he'll go the grappling route. I think he goes the grappling route here. I think takes the path of least resistance and.
Charles has taken a lifetime of damage. That's for me the thing that bothers me. It's like he's had a lot of surgeries. He's had a lot of injuries, time off, layoff, and then coming back. And like he had promised for his last fight, he's like, I've made these improvements. I'm at this new camp. Like I'm at ATT Sunshine or whatever the hell it was called. He looked the same. He looked the exact same. He fought even dumber than he ever had. I was like, Charles, you fooled me one time. You fooled me 2 times. I just can't be fooled again, my brother. But with that being said, guys, we can move along from that fight. And we can move to a 155-pound fight between Marc Bonecrusher Diakiese. And he bone crushed my dreams in UFC right in front of my eyes in Columbus. I had a nice Slava Borshev ticket just light on fire in front of me as Marc Diakiese turned into, Mark Schultz or something. He was just out there wrestling the whole time. He didn't want to strike at all. I was like, come on, man, give me a chance. Let me at least rip a body shot so I can have something to cheer about in this arena. But it wasn't to be. And Diakiese did the right thing. He fought smart. He did a very cautious approach, but a very smart winning game plan. Now he's got a different kind of matchup here. Similar in the sense that might have a grappling liability, but we're not in, with all due respect, just some arena out in Ohio, whatever. This is like Marc Diakiese at home, big showcase fight, big spot, big opportunity, a lot of expectations, right? He's not the underdog anymore. Now he's back to being the favorite, where he stumbled several times, right? Fought a high level of competition in the UFC. You got to give him that credit for sure. And I think the same could be said in some ways on the other side. Certainly, Damir Hadzovic has been fighting very experienced UFC fighters. I've given Yancy Medeiros a little bit of grief in my breakdown of this fight, saying that, he only started wrestling at the end, which was probably pretty foolish based on what we've seen from Damir in the past. However, it's just not Yancy's A game, right? And Marc Diakiese showed he can make that his A game against certain guys, but that's not what we've seen from him in every fight. More of the times, he's pulling out wrestling as like, oh, the striking is now going poorly, or I just got hurt, I should wrestle now. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches this fight. If he's smart, he's going to come out here and try and approach it from a wrestling-based perspective. We've seen several people exploit this guy on the ground, take him down multiple times. Hadzovic has given his back in exchanges, gotten submitted very quickly. One of my favorite exchanges in UFC history between him and Renato Moicano. I won't rehash it here, but I've done it many times, and it's hysterical, right? This guy is a real fighter. He wants to get out there and scrap. He wants to throw hands with you. He wants to get in a fight. Marc Diakiese sometimes likes to do the same thing. And if he does that here, I do think we have a live underdog on our hands. Damir throws with some power. A lot of people are talking about Marc Diakiese. He doesn't have any problems with durability. I'm going to beg to differ. I disagree with that analysis, right? I think that just because you get submitted at the end of getting hurt, doesn't mean that you don't have a problem in terms of potential durability. And we have seen that he shot himself into guillotines on more than one occasion in the UFC by getting himself hurt. So his wrestling came at an inopportune time. And we have seen that Damir has countered, wrestlers and grapplers before. He knocked out Marcin Held with a raised knee when he went for a takedown late in that fight. So I think that, Marc Diakiese minus 350, it's just not for me. I think he's going to win the fight. I think he should win the fight, but I can't be laying that kind of price on him. And I think that the market is a what have you done for me lately kind of market. Last time he did something real smart, right? Didn't make any mistakes, didn't cost you any money. But if you have a long-term vision and a long-term memory, that's something where you go, ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that this guy has cost me money in the past, as a favorite especially. So I think that Marc Diakiese, you look through his UFC run, he's been historically overrated. That's just by the numbers. Now, is he a bust prospect? I don't know. I mean, when you have a certain number of losses in the UFC, you have to start raising those questions. But he's starting to try and rebuild. They gave him a very low-level opponent with respect. Silva, I bet on him. But Silva, very small sample size. Really didn't have that many fights. I was kind of betting into some potential there, I thought. Not to be, right? I thought Team Alpha Male would be a helpful camp from a wrestling perspective. Didn't look so in that fight. So Diakiese, what I think is going to be a little different here as well is the size. He's at relative size parity with Damir. I was expecting him to be a lot bigger, just based on like my impression of them in my head. But then just looking at the measurables, it's like a 1 and 2 inch difference that we're talking about, really not a substantial gap in terms of size between these two individuals. So I think that I would rather bet Damir than I would rather bet Nicholas Dalby, right? In terms of that contingency. So for me, that's kind of the way that I view this fight. Probably a dog or pass situation. If you want to get involved with a Diakiese prop, I won't blame you there. I do think that he is live, even for a submission potentially, because Damir has just shown, liabilities on the ground. But that's not something I bet myself. It's something I'll look into and see where the market shakes out on that. But I think it's at least a live proposition. Wizz, how do you feel?
Yeah, so echoing some of your thoughts, I think Hadzovic's takedown defense, and shout out to Wheezy for this, for stat diggers, 37% takedown defense is horrible for Hadzovic. And if Diakiese puts on his wrestling singlet, it's going to be a problem. If we see Diakiese this weekend, I think it's going to be a problem. Although Hadzovic has had some decent get-up game, am I going to trust it? I don't know. Also, am I going to trust Diakiese as a minus 300 favorite? I'm not too tempted either. Now, for me, just because these are my kind of bets, the 2-team parlay, a 2-fighter parlay, that's my game. I have Diakiese in one of those 2-teamers, and I just, it's very hard for me to see Hadzovic winning this fight. I know he does have some jiu-jitsu background as well, but the kind of wrestling that Diakiese has kind of nullifies the jiu-jitsu in a sense where he's not trying to advance positions all that often, but when he does, he's making sure that it's favorable towards him, at least in the Silva fight that he showed that. And he knows how to use his weight. He knows how to use his weight when he's on top of someone. So I think Diakiese is just going to wrestle the shit out of him and win a decision here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he would probably be wise to do that. I think that makes the most sense for him. Lou, what do you think?
Let me tell you why I'm not betting this fight. Everything you guys saying is completely accurate. Has Diakiese always done what he's supposed to do to get his best win condition to fight? No. Like, he dives into submissions. He keeps the fight standing when he shouldn't. If he does go for takedowns, does he have an advantage? He should. But here's a fun stat for you. Do you know how many significant strikes he landed last fight against Slava Claus? 17. He did nothing on the ground. So the thing is let's say he does go the takedown route in the first round. Let's say he has control the whole time and he gets a 10-9. He's not doing any damage. And what have we seen the last couple of months? If you just do nothing on the ground, I mean, do you necessarily win these rounds? I mean, Hadzovic could have 1 minute, 1.5 minutes of decent stand-up against him, get taken down and have nothing done to him. How do you score that round? We've seen it. I mean, we're seeing it more and more. Again, 17 significant strikes in a 15-minute fight is crazy. Now, there's a narrative side that Diakiese really was fighting for his job last time out. If he lost, he was probably fired. I would think he was getting a pink slip. So he had to win to save his job. So maybe there's a little less pressure on him here. But this guy's he should not be minus 350 against anybody in the UFC, even if he has a significant takedown advantage. So I see what you guys are saying. I could very easily see it playing out where he has 15 minutes of control time. But there's a part of me that sees him just saying, like, fuck it. Like, I just want to stand up and bang and put himself in a weird, bad situation. So it's a pass for me. I favor Diakiese, obviously. He has the clearest path to victory, but not for this price tag. I don't want it. And I was on Slava Claus last time, too, because how do you not root for, like, the Russian hat dance? How do you not root for that guy to win and get the dance, Liam?
Hey, man, I'm saying the same thing. He had a great walkout. I was so fired up for this guy to get the big win and for him to become a UFC star, and my dude hasn't been to wrestling practice or something. What the hell was that? Come on, Slava. What kind of Russian doesn't know how to wrestle? Come on, bro. Come on.
I mean, it was bad, but again, he wasn't hurt. He didn't get hurt at all. He got nothing landed on him, but we'll see, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he came out of there fresh as a daisy, so hopefully we get him back in there soon with somebody that would like to stand up and strike. That would be fun. This guy rips body shots. But with that being said, somebody else who likes to rip the occasional body shot, Mason, the Dragon Jones, is taking on Ludovic Klein. And Ludovic is a guy that I did cash as an underdog, I believe, in his last fight. And, you know, it's a fickle market, right? This is a guy who's bounced around a little bit at 145 and 155. People had confidence in him in a couple spots, and he let them down. So then people are like, oh, this guy stinks. He can never win another UFC fight. So then you can get a buy low opportunity. This time, he was the guy who was preparing for a fight, you know, on this date. However, he's got a very tough challenge, right? At 155, this guy, Mason Jones, is very serious. You know, he's got some pretty good experience through a couple of short fights in the UFC. David Onama from a weight class below, but does have some upside that's clear. You know, we've seen that in his first couple of UFC bouts. You know, he's shown that he can finish fights. He can be dangerous with his hands. He can be dangerous with his grappling. So we saw Mason Jones contend with that. and do quite well. We saw that he was able to fight tooth and nail with Mike Beast Boy Davis, another high-level prospect, and he was able to match him in terms of the pace. So what do we know about Mason Jones? He can go a hard 15 minutes. He can work. He can go for takedowns. He can go for striking. He can put a decent pace together. Now, what do we know about Ludovic? Shout out to Nathan in the chat. Says Ludovic head kicks are ruthless. No doubt. Very dangerous southpaw striker with those left kicks, open side to the head, to the body. He could definitely hurt you with those. And he's got some submissions as well regionally. So it's not like he doesn't have a offensive basis in every position. I do think he has some skills in all positions. However, I think that, we saw Nate the Train put him under a lot of pressure, was able to get some wrestling going, was able to secure his first win by submission in his career in that fight. I thought that was interesting as well. Not a prolific submission guy, but I do think Ludovic Klein is hard to put away with strikes. We did see earlier in his career, pre-UFC days, he was once finished with strikes. He's been submitted before. So he has, some weaknesses, some holes in his game. He's been losing these fights at times on the Serbian regional scene. It's not known for being extremely high level. So I think that there's just some overall questions and concerns I have on the Ludovic side as a long-term prospect. I think Mason Jones probably projects to go a little bit higher. I think that if Ludovic Klein can get to 145, then he could probably make a big impact because he's big. And I think that then his wrestling game will be even more effective because he did show against Trezano he can mix it up in those realms a little bit. But we also saw Trezano was able to get him down. We also saw that Trezano was able to put pressure on him. Trezano not historically known for being a tremendous pressure fighter. So I think that, Mason Jones is a pressure fighter. And he can bring a lot of pressure to bear on you. And I also think that he's smart enough that if he's getting lit up on the feet, if he's eating some of those head kicks, my dude's going to go, F this. I'm pushing him into the fence. I'm going to punch him in the body. I'm just going to try and chip away at this guy. I think that's a good way to beat him. So I think that Ludovic will be back. He's a good fighter, and I think he's talented. I just think that this is a tough matchup for him. And, he's going to have a really good performance here, really smart performance here to win the fight. So I'm curious how you guys feel about it. It's a great fight, great matchup. Wizz, what do you think?
Yeah, so we've seen Ludovic Klein struggle when he's being pressured. He likes being the aggressor. Against Devontae Smith, Devontae's not known to be too much of a pressure guy. Klein was just walking forward for the most part and landing those leg kicks. And those leg kicks are probably his biggest weapon, that left high kick to the head. That's his power shot along with some of his left hooks. But to be honest, like we've seen Mason Jones get cracked by the likes of David Onama, who's been putting some people out, to be fair. He has some power. He got cracked by him multiple times throughout the whole fight. And this is not like a one-round fight. It went almost all 3 rounds, pretty much. And he looked wobbled for a second in the third. But other than that, he was just eating him, which concerns me in the terms of striking defense. But when he was getting hit with those shots and when he was getting uncomfortable, what did he do? He executed a game plan, took him down or pressured him against the cage and got the clinch control. So he's a smart fighter in terms of knowing what he needs to do to get out of danger when he's in it. And that's something I rate really highly because a lot of the time in fights, it's very cerebral. It's very tricky to navigate these scenarios when you're getting hit with 1, 2, 3 punches on the chin. You're like, what do I do now? He executes the game plan. In my opinion, I think Mason Jones has him covered in the grappling, the striking as well. Although I do think he probably could get hit with a head kick or two. And hey, you never know. That might put him out. We haven't seen him get like brutally hurt like that in a while. But it doesn't mean that he's never going to get hurt. That's my thing. And when he leaves that opening for that left high kick to the head, we don't know what's going to happen. Mason might tumble. But I don't see the fight playing out that way. I think Mason wins this pretty comfortably, pressuring Klein, clinch control, grappling, using all of the tools, and winning a 30-27.
That makes sense to me. Should be a great fight. Lou, what do you think?
Well, I agree with the side. but I'm going to go against Wizz. I know nobody's here for my sub props, but I'm not just going to play Mason Jones submission here. I'm going to play Mason Jones round 3 submission at 40-1. I don't know. He's a better version of Landwehr to me, but like, I'll go a little more into it. I wouldn't be surprised if Mason Jones takes him down within 30 seconds. You guys talking about getting it pop with a head kick. Don't be surprised if Jones just takes the path of least resistance, gets him down immediately, starts wearing him out. I mean, can he take a shot? Yeah. And he proved against Mike Davis. Like, he's a dog, man. The Welshmen are dogs. Like, these guys are tough. I don't know what Klein can do to him outside of a flash KO. And I think Jones can wear him out, get the grappling going. Klein has shown just, he's a professional fighter. So, like, I'm careful what I say here, but he doesn't fight for your money. He's shown some quit in him.
Did we lose my man Lou?
Oh no.
I'm sure my man will be back, but in the interim, we can kick it along to the next fight here, and we'll let Lou round out his thoughts when he returns. But we will talk about the next fight coming up in the light heavyweight division, and this one's going to kick us off on the main card. We've got Paul the BearJew Craig, excuse me. I don't want to have any of my Scottish listeners take exception to me. And we've got Volkan Oezdemir on the other side. But we've got Lou back in the building. Lou, could you finish what you were saying, my brother?
Just Jones round 3, man. And he's a great parlay piece.
Fair enough. So Lou kept it plain and simple. He likes the round 3. He likes Mason Jones as the side. And like I was saying, we got a great fight at 205 pounds. It's Paul the BearJew Craig, and it's Volkan No Time Oezdemir. 2 guys that are still trying to get their way into light heavyweight contention. You know, Volkan's seen that mountaintop and tumbled all the way back down. Kind of had a really rough schedule, though. You know, he fought Yuri Prohaska, went on to be world champion. So don't want to read too much into that. But the Anthony Smith loss didn't age so good overall. Just, kind of a little bit of a gas out spot there, a little bit of a cardio dump. And, against somebody like Paul Craig, if you're not taking him out early, that could be a potential problem, because Paul Craig will grind on somebody. He will find a late submission in fights. He's found that before. Do you want to bet on somebody that's kind of drawing dead to a sub? No, I wouldn't advocate for that either. But I don't know that he's drawing dead to a sub. The one thing I'll say about Paul Craig is that I have seen steady improvements over the years, right? I did like a pretty deep tape study of Paul Craig today. And when you look at his fights in 2017 where he got knocked out, Paul Craig looked thin. He looked very frail. He did not look very much like an athlete. And when these guys were landing on him, they were just bopping him out. And I do think that it's a little bit different here, where Paul Craig has gotten physical. He's added some strength, some muscle. I don't rate the team that he trains with. I think that for me is a little bit of a problem, on the Paul Craig side long term. But how am I going to dispute the fact that this guy has the best grappling in the light heavyweight division? I mean, it's pretty hard to argue with that at this stage. A lot of the other guys you put up there, or actually, no, I should say Glover Teixeira is obviously right there as well. But I think that this is, one of those guys. He's top 3, no doubt. He's got a very, very good game. He can go overhooks on either side and finish you with an armbar, with a triangle choke. He's got guillotine finishes. He's got rear naked choke finishes. Might I remind you guys, I know Vinicius Moreira is a meme at this point in the UFC, but Paul Craig hurt him with strikes. He was basically backing him up with teep kicks to the body, followed him with a right straight, knee to the body, hurt him bad. And then, he was debating going for ground and pound strikes like he did against Shogun Rua. And then Moreira, who is like a guy who's got like jiu-jitsu tattooed on his chest or something, ends up submitting to Paul BearJew Craig. So I think that this guy is really dangerous. Gadzimurad Antigulov punched a hole in his head and got submitted in the same exchange. So, like, this guy is tough. He's more and more confident over the years. You look at his old fights, Paul Craig would be there, like, waiting for the fight to start, like, oh, God, like, And now you look at him, he walks across the octagon. He's got the eyes. He's got the whole bit going. He wants to be there. He's excited, and he pushes forward. Could I see Paul Craig running face first into a right hand and going straight to sleep 20 seconds into this fight? Yes, I can. Because Volkan hits hard, because Paul Craig does not have the most sound defense. But I do think that Paul Craig has shown an adaptability to different opponents. When he's fighting certain guys, he backs himself onto the fence. He throws teep kicks. He does things to keep them off of him. And then as soon as they commit to coming forward, he level changes for single legs, for double legs. And he can also work for throws from the clinch along the fence line. I've seen him do it to a number of people. Hit step through hip throws. So I think that Paul Craig is live in this fight, believe it or not. I know a lot of sharps on the Volkan Oezdemir side, truly. So I'm just saying the truth. I do know several sharp players that are on that side, but I'm not going to write him off. Paul Craig is one of the most profitable UFC underdogs in history. 100% ROI as a underdog, 95% ROI overall in the UFC. This guy's been a historical, excellent betting commodity. Volkan Oezdemir as a favorite hasn't delivered for you. If you've been backing him in the UFC, he's cost you money. That's the truth. But this might be a tailor-made matchup. This might be the kind of time when, Sweden, All-Stars MMA, Gustafsson, and all these guys are being put in a featured spot here where he could get the win. Maybe that's the idea here. But Paul Craig, undefeated in London, he is a very talented fighter, and he doesn't just have submissions. I hear that a lot, but he has wrestling. It's not the world's greatest. It's not the best in the world, but it's, statistics don't tell the full story about Paul Craig's game. That's the God's honest truth, because most people, if they get into an overhook, underhook battle and they fall to their back, that's a problem, right? They've made a grave mistake. That's what Paul Craig's trying to do. He will pull you into guard. He will sit into your legs. He will do anything he can to get you to grapple with him, because his grappling is a different level than most of the guys in the light heavyweight division. And I can be pretty confident in saying that his grappling is a different level than Volkan Oezdemir. What I can't say confidently is that he's going to get to the positions he needs before he gets hurt, before he gets knocked out, before he gets finished, because he has been knocked out 3 times in the first round in the UFC. And you can't discount that. You can't pretend that didn't happen. He's almost been knocked out in the first round in several other fights where he wasn't. So I love Paul Craig. That's the full disclosure here. The guy is like jiu-jitsu personified. Patience plus submissions equals jiu-jitsu. The guy's a stud. The guy's a freaking legend. The guy will submit you and then afterwards go to the clubs with you. But really, people are discounting these real, legitimate, credible wins. Like Jamal Hill, that's going to age beautifully. I'm telling you right now, that win will age excellently. So I think that overall, it's a dog or pass situation for me at this time. I'm going to do some more Volkan tape tonight. Maybe I come back and change my mind, but I just think that right now, based on everything I saw today, doing a deep dive on Paul Craig, I can't bet against this guy. Right now, I think he's too dangerous. I think he's made too many improvements. I think he's got too much momentum on his side. He's not lost in some time, and I think that his confidence is reflected in his performances. I think you've been seeing a better version of Paul Craig each and every time out, despite the fact that he almost retired a few years back. Wizz, what do you think? I just had a mouthful.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Paul Craig is legit when it comes to the jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But I think we all can argue that in his last fight against Krylov, he was knocked out. He was knocked out cold. And if Krylov didn't hit him a second time when he was hitting that ground and pound and he just got up, Paul Craig would have been out. Because if you look back at that fight while I was rewatching it, I had to look at this multiple times. And I saw Krylov hitting this ground and pound, and Paul Craig, his eyes are open, and then his face just tilts a little bit for a second. And after he gets hit one more time, he wakes up. So to me, he was out. And I know there was a lot of controversy behind this in MMA Twitter. Whoever bet on Krylov, I know, I'm sorry. But I just don't think he has it this time. I think Oezdemir will probably handle him pretty justly in this sense. He's gonna knock him out, whether it's the first or second round. That's my prediction. The striking is gonna be a little bit too much. I know Paul Craig has made some improvements in the striking department, and his offensive wrestling is not that bad, but it's also not that good. But you never know. He could pull guard on Oezdemir, and try something like that, wrap an arm and pull guard or get a choke. But Oezdemir, in his own sense, has not had the easiest schedule. When you're looking at his schedule, you see Ankalaev, you see Prohaska. He beat Rakic to a split. You see Ilir Latifi. But I think Oezdemir, this is a bounce back spot for him. And at 32 years of age, I mean, in this light heavyweight division, where age is not too much of a factor, like we've seen the last champion was 42 before Yuri. I don't think the age is playing into a factor. I think he is just fine here. And I'm taking Oezdemir. I have not pulled the trigger yet. I think by fight time, me and Lou were talking about this earlier. I think by fight time, he might be closer to like a minus 140 or minus 130. Who knows? Maybe even a pick 'em if a lot of money comes in on Craig. So I'm just waiting out. But most definitely, I'll be pulling the trigger on Oezdemir.
Fair enough. I totally get that perspective. Lou, what do you think?
So let's just admit it that there's nothing about, like, because I'm going to bring up stats for Paul Craig. There's nothing about stats that matter. Like, and I understand that, but some of these are just really hard to ignore. Against Jamal Hill, 0 for 1 on takedowns. We know how it went to the ground. Against Krylov, he had 2 seconds of control time. They credited him with a takedown. But so the thing is this: what is his path to victory? And Liam, I know what you're saying here, but I feel like recently his path to victory is after you crush him with a right hand, you make the mistake of diving on top of him. So if you're Oezdemir, can you not do that? And there's an instinctual thing. Like, I get it. You get a guy hurt, you swarm him. Like, I mean, I understand it. But like literally, I would imagine his whole camp is, so when you hit him, get him up. Like actually go back, like hit him and run backwards. Go nowhere near him when he's on the ground. I'm betting the under here. I think Oezdemir gets the KO and he cruises. But I can't bet against Paul Craig because I'm just going to be sitting here like, God damn it. Like, I fucking let him take my money again. Like, I was big on Jamal Hill, and, you know, like, I'm like, that's what I get for betting against Paul Craig. He just defies logic. So I'm just done tempting fate. The pick is Oezdemir by KO. And I'll probably do something stupid and like bet it. But fight doesn't go with Mason Jones is a great parlay. All the time props are good here. I mean, under 1.5, I think is pretty solid here too. But but the pick is Oezdemir with just zero confidence because of how Paul Craig fights.
I love it. I love it. He's the X factor.
He's going to win the title. He's going to win the title doing this and then get the rematch against Jamal Hill. Like, I feel like
my bad. Go for it. Go for it.
Like, they're going to have, like, somehow they're going to have a rematch down the line, and Paul Craig's going to be on a 12-fight winning streak. And he'll have been, you know, I joke that he's 8-2 in fights he's lost. Like, he'll be like 20-2 in fights he's lost at that point. Like, he defies the stats. He defies logic. There's a clear path to not being subbed, a.k.a. do not fall to the ground with him. His takedown accuracy is 26% in his career. The guy's not some, like, wizard at getting you to the ground.
I'm telling you, the stats do not tell the story of Paul Craig because he shoots himself into bottom. So it'll say the other guy took him down. But the truth is, most of the time, Paul Craig is the one deciding where the fight is in terms of up or down because he grabs a hold, like Jamal Hill, he grabs a hold of an overhook and falls backwards. He's like, yeah, what's up? You going to leave the arm up there? Or are you going to come down here with me? It's like, you're going to come down there with him. And when he's got you in an overhook, now you're in panic mode because you know it's one mistake and this guy's going to break my shit. It's not like this guy's not here to play games. He's here to break your arm. And, you know, Jamal Hill learned that the hard way. And that's the other thing is like people get too cute with the props on Paul Craig, but that man, you know, took my money when I bet on him by sub against Jamal Hill and he TKO'd him in the very first round by breaking his arm with an arm.
Can I add?
Crazy.
Can I add one thing here? One thing.
Yes, please.
I realize that Craig Sub's going to be the very popular bet, and I understand it. He's down to like plus 200 for the sub prop. You know, if you're going to pivot away and try a different kind of prop with Craig, maybe now's the time. Like, you either have to play because that plus 200. Like, how do you get there without playing either a round prop or just taking a shot on a different kind of prop? Like. And last thing I'll say is we've had one fight every card, the last like 5 cards, where all of us were sure it was going to end inside the distance. You know, like the Pereira Silva, the Curtis fight with Vieira, all these minus 600s. I mean, I know it's not minus 600. I think it's minus 380 or whatever. We keep seeing these fights.
Saying there's a chance.
We keep seeing these fights that we're like, oh, this isn't going to distance. And then there's some guy out there on Twitter who's like, I had Paul Craig decision at like plus 900. You're like, God damn. Like Wheezy always says, you see these numbers get enormous. It's worth like a quarter unit. Like it's worth a poke on like the crazy goes to decision. You just never know. But can I see it? No. But like we've been seeing it every week. So I have a fight coming up that we're going to get to that I think goes to decision that I think a lot of people are not going to agree with me on. But
cheers, man. I like that. And shout out to Z Goler says Craig ground and pound KO.
Why not?
Hey,
Why not?
I do think that that's another example of just like the outcomes people sleep on. They're like, it's got to be a Craig sub. It's like, well, does it have to be? I mean, if he's having dominant positions on the ground, what's to stop a TKO? That made me a lot of money, thinking outside the box with Chase Hooper. So just something to keep in mind when you're breaking down these fights. If you expect somebody to have dominant grappling positions, maybe they find the finish via TKO. Maybe they're being priced minus 115 to win by sub or some bullshit. That is like the automatic, kiss of death. So if you see that, just steer the other way and go find yourself a better prop. But with that being said, guys, we've got another fight that will be taking place in the women's 125-pound division. Molly Meatball McCann, the pride of England right now. Very big fans of Molly McCann over there. Sing her out to the ring. She has a huge highlight performance last time. A lot of people would call that a breakout performance as well, because she's been around fighting tough girls in the UFC. I think one thing that's interesting that I noticed when I was doing my research is Molly McCann has, in every UFC win, 2 or more takedowns. So she's never achieved a UFC win without achieving 2 or more takedowns in a fight. So if you guys are Prize Picks players, the over 1.5 is something I'm interested in. But with that being said, right, I think that Hannah Goldy is the type of fighter that we saw in her last fight. She was taken down twice in the very first round. She's a little bit susceptible to that. She's highly inexperienced compared to somebody like Molly McCann, who has double the pro experience as Hannah Goldy. She has as many UFC fights as Hannah Goldy has professional bouts. I think that could be a problem for Hannah in this spot. What is the upside for Hannah Goldy? Hannah Goldy in this spot, she does have a pretty decent submission game. She's physical, she's strong, she's got a bodybuilder type physique. So would I be surprised if she got a takedown at some point in this fight? No, I wouldn't be stunned, but I do think it's more likely that Molly is going to be putting her on the back foot and therefore able to get takedowns off a little bit more easily, maybe pushing her up against the fence. Molly McCann basically knows one direction, it's forward. She throws spamming volume, but she can touch with decent power. And we saw in her last fight, she could put somebody away, whether it's an accumulation of shots or, a big spinning shot of the week. So I think that Molly McCann, somebody that I like, somebody that I prefer as a side this week in terms of who I think is going to win the fight. Am I going out there, rushing to lay the minus 425? I don't know about that. But, it's something that I could see myself getting towards. Whereas Hannah Goldy, I just think she's being asked to do a lot in this spot. She's got to travel. She's got to take on, her most well-seasoned opponent by far. And to be honest with you, she's fought a pretty low level of competition so far in the UFC and has not been winning at a very high clip, right? She's bounced around. She's been at 115. She's been at 125. Doesn't know what weight she wants to go. Has other interests outside the octagon. Whereas I think Molly McCann is basically all in. She does have a lot of sponsorships, probably a lot of access to, like I said, asparagus and prayers. She can get that in abundance based on her new paycheck from Barstool. So I bet she has been. And cheers to her. I think that she's a potential play this week. So something to consider. But yeah, Hannah Goldy was not for me. What I would say is if you want to cover, a Hannah Goldy win here, and a potential, Hannah Goldy loss, you could look for the fight ends by sub. It's just something that I just saw as plus 700, and I was like, man, that's really how I see Goldy winning if she's to win this fight. She's probably gonna have to pull something off. She's not getting a decision in England. I mean, guys, she's not getting a fair shake in England. So she's gonna have to beat her 30-24 if she wants to get the decision. So I think that overall it's gonna be a finish or bust. And Molly McCann, tough girl, very durable, going to come forward, and I don't think she's going to go down to shots from the likes of Hannah Goldy. So I think it would be sub or bust on the Goldy side, and I do think that covers the chance that McCann is just too much for her physically. It overwhelms her by the end of the fight. We haven't seen Hannah Goldy necessarily extended by a fighter of this caliber, and maybe she breaks over time. It's one thing to say, hey, this fighter's never been finished before, but it's another thing to say they've only had 8 professional fights. How many opportunities have we had? This is a big step up in competition. So I think that we could see, the first finish loss of her career for Hannah Goldy this weekend. And, I think she's going to be incented to fail. Wizz, what do you think?
Man, this fight. I mean, the odds indicate where I'm leaning here too. Molly McCann is just going to bull rush her continuously, like what she was doing against Luana Carolina. It's going to be the same exact game plan. And I know Hannah Goldy might have bigger muscles, but dude, the OnlyFans fade is in, and you can't stop it. But if it was at a better price tag, then I would be in. I can't really rate anything of Hannah Goldy's game. At points, she doesn't seem like she's not. I mean, she seems like she's not into the whole fighting thing. Like, she's not focused. Even in her fights, she just gets really lazy. She gets lazy with the offense. She gets lazy with the striking defense specifically. And if you get lazy with your striking defense against someone like Molly, she's just gonna jab you up and 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and continue. And when you have muscle like that Hannah Goldy has, the lactic acid is going to build up, and she's going to slow down insane amounts come round 3. I don't even know if she's going to be able to defend these strikes. It's ridiculous. So I know some people look at the physique and they're like, oh, she's just going to out wrestle her, out grapple her, and just out muscle her in general. It doesn't always work that way. It'll work for a round or a round and a half, but then once that pressure is built up into those muscles and the lactic acid flows through, you're done. You can't raise your arms like that. So I think Molly has it in the bag no matter what. Yeah, that's it from me. She just wins this handedly.
Yeah, that's a great point by True Shot as well. To build on what you're saying, Molly McCann, traditionally speaking, is going to be the shorter athlete. She's going to have less of a reach than her opponents at 125. I think the callback is to the Talia Santos fight, where she was actually a favorite before the fight. I think that speaks to, what people rate in terms of her skills and her abilities, and maybe that little bit of lack of understanding of who Talia Santos is and what her skill set was. But I do think also, we've kind of seen Molly's made some improvements in that area since that fight, probably in response to how that outcome played out, because it was reminiscent of her UFC debut, where she was also out-grappled by Jillian Robertson. Luke, what did you think of this matchup, and do you have any plays?
I'm trying to think of nice things to say about Goldy's career. So she's really good at withdrawing from fights. She's done that a lot in like a 2-year span. And she had like a pretty okay round against Belbita. Like, I can't rate the Whitmire, the Quitmire submission there. So I'm not sure what he does and what she does well. I can't get to a -400 here, even though it seems easy. So let's have some fun with it, Liam. Can't make it a Yambags play, but I can make it a Clambags play for this. So let's make this the point deduction fight of the night, 20-1. Molly is clearly on the asparagus, as Liam said. Could Goldy be grabbing the cage on takedowns? Absolutely. Could Molly McCann lose her mind and think she's like Zeus? Yes. I feel like that's very much in play here. So give me a point deduction, 20-1. Let's have some fun with this one. Besides Molly, I'm not going to play her in the distance. I'm not going to get to any kind of method. I'm not going to play that at all. So, and shout out to Dan Goldstein for helping me. This was like a people's Yambags play, and Dan coming through with some logic. So, and I don't know what Wizz is saying, but he's probably like, thank God for the Yambags right now. So,
I'm not saying anything, okay?
Yambags and Clambags for the win. But that being said, guys, we've got another fight in the light heavyweight division, and this one is going to feature Nikita the Miner Krylov taking on Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson, making his return here. Came back at the heavyweight division. Didn't look so good against Fabricio Verdum. However, does his manager hate him? Does he not like manage his own career? Like that was maybe the stupidest fight he could take at heavyweight. It's like a guy who takes your back one time and it's over. There's like 3 of those guys at heavyweight. What are you doing? What are you doing, Gus? Like, why didn't we take any of these other slow plotting guys who just want to bounce around on the feet and dance with you? You probably could have messed those guys up. But I think that, now we're back at 205 pounds. And if Instagram's any indication, which it can't be everything, but it can be something, Gus is in phenomenal shape. He's training with world-class guys that are competitive elite fighters of today. So I do think that people, might be a little bit too quick to write him off in this spot, right? Am I saying he's, a deserved favorite here? No, Nikita Krylov's been more active. He's been fighting guys who are ranked in the top 15 in the division. But has he really looked exceptionally good to you guys? I mean, a lot of people have been saying that, he impressed in the Johnny Walker fight. I thought that was a horrible fight by both guys. I came away thinking both of them stunk. And I was like, man, I can't wait to fade these guys. These are not good light heavyweights. And then I see the Paul Craig fight, right? Everybody's telling me Paul Craig stinks and he's an easy knockout and all this stuff. And this guy basically has every position he wants. Multiple times he got to the half guard. He opened up with ground and pound. And then he puts himself right back into a bad position and gets finished. It's like, you can't even help these light heavyweights, man. Even the good ones, like Jamal Hill, did the exact same thing. He got out of the arm lock. He's like, oh, look at me go. Put himself right back in and gets arm lock 2 seconds later. It's like, I just think for me, hard to bank on these guys in terms of their fight IQ. But one of them, you're getting some potential, some plus money, some, hey, take a shot with me, give me a chance. Whereas Nikita Krylov, I'm being asked to forget all these mistakes, all these flummoxes, all these bad performances. The fact that he's been dismissed from the UFC once before. It's like there's a couple of those guys on the card tomorrow, who are UFC retreads, I like to call them. Like, hey, it didn't work out the first time. We already sent you packing. Welcome back. Like most of the time, those guys don't go on to be the world champion or something. Rare exceptions, Robbie Lawler, like these kind of guys, they go away, they come back, they do great. Okay. Most people, it's not like that, right? They go away, they come back. They're not even as good as they were the first time, or maybe they're a little bit better. Some people do make improvements. Dustin Jacoby, actually a great example. Somebody who went away, but he went to another ancillary combat sport, right? He didn't just go to the regionals and then come back. So Nikita Krylov, I try to remind people, his 3 most recent wins are Fabio Maldonado, Ovince St. Preux, and Johnny Walker. So if you're going to try and sell me that guy is like a lock to beat anybody in a 205-pound fight, I'm just not buying it. I think that his resume is pretty good. He's got some real wins. He's got some credible skills and positions. But I'm just saying, like, if Gustafsson is way better than him, I'm not going to be surprised. Because as far as I'm concerned, Gustafsson, with some confidence, with some retooling, is still better than most light heavyweights. Light heavyweight's not that skilled a division. So Gus, the one thing I'm concerned about is that the footwork's going to fall off. He is a little bit older. Sometimes guys lose their legs. They call it in boxing, right? They just don't have the footwork anymore. They can't really bounce for as long. If that's the case, maybe Krylov gets him. Yo, guys, you seen Krylov's cardio? It ain't good. It's no good. In the Johnny Walker fight, they both looked like they were drunk. They're rolling into each other. They're slipping and falling over each other in the grappling. Looked horrible. I think that, Gustafsson, if he's got any kind of cardio, any semblance of 3-round cardio, which, by the way, he won the 3rd round before getting submitted in round 4 against Anthony Smith. Who's to say he can't win this fight? Who's to say he can't gut out 2 rounds over Nikita Krylov, who is nobody's writing home about him as the next light heavyweight prospect, in my opinion. So he is younger. He does have some upside. I'm not going to, pretend that he can't win this fight. He can't win it inside the distance. Maybe Gustafsson looks completely washed. He's said the retirement word. That is the big boogeyman. But I'm just going to say I'd be more interested in taking a shot with the dog than laying minus 200 on Nikita Krylov in a fight. That's just how I feel about it. Wizz, what do you think, man?
Yeah, so one thing, like I was mentioning in the previous fight, age does not really play into factor in this light heavyweight division until you're in like the late 30s to early 40s. And I'm taking there's a different take on this fight for me. I think Krylov has the tools. I think Krylov, if he executes a similar plan to a John Jones, which by no means am I saying that Krylov is a John Jones or am I comparing him to a John Jones, but he has good takedown offense, he has good ground and pound, and he has good position holding. Now, is he smart with it? That's the side that I've yet to see. So if he does execute that same game plan that John Jones executed against Gustafsson, he definitely could win this pretty handedly. And that's the side I'm currently leaning on. But if Gustafsson is anywhere near his top prime level, it's going to be very competitive, and Krylov is not going to cover that price tag. At minus 200, I'm not in love with the line. Now, I'm looking at this in an aspect of a live betting scenario where Gustafsson does really well in round 1, but just fades into round 2 and round 3. We'll probably get Krylov at like a even money standpoint, maybe even a plus money point there, which I'll happily take, just because I think Krylov's gas tank will probably outlast Gustafsson's. And in the past 3 years and a half, Gustafsson only fought twice, one being at heavyweight where he hasn't had to cut weight. So it was pretty much like a lackluster training camp. And then the other one, obviously we know what happened there. So I don't usually like to bet on fight, no matter the value. I don't like betting on fighters that have mentioned the retirement word, or the whole aspect of them like foreshadowing that they're almost at their end, because you don't know the motivation. When you're betting on a fighter or on a team or on any sport, you want to bet on a motivation spot. That's the ultimate spot, no matter what. And if you're betting on someone that's not motivated to even continue their career, they don't really see anything past like a couple fights, or they don't see any more goals towards title contention, then it's a little bit too risky for me, even at the value, because at that point you're just throwing away money. And I'm not in the business of throwing away money. I'm in the business of making money. So I will not be touching the value line on Gustafsson. I'm definitely going to be entering on Krylov, whether it's live, whether I put him in a parlay or something. I don't know yet, but I'm leaning towards the live scenario.
I always say you got to risk it to get the biscuit. Lou, what do you think, my brother?
Well, I'm going to take a different angle than both of you. I'm on the under 2.5 here at minus 140. It's really strange when you look at Gustafsson's career. The only two guys not to finish him in a loss are Jones the first time in the Epic and Cormier. But everybody else finishes him. Well, Krylov ain't Jones or Cormier. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. We don't know what we're getting with Gus, but you want to talk about a dude that snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. It's Krylov. Like, his fight IQ's low. Should he be subjectively better everywhere simply due to his activity? Yes. If this was a video game with their skill set, Gustafsson probably beats him 9 out of 10 times. It's just too many variables. But the two things I know is Krylov makes a habit of doing boneheaded things, and Gustafsson, we just don't know. You're talking about motivation. Wizz brings up motivation. That's a great point. We just don't know. Like, why is he coming back? He's not going to make a run at this point. Like, is he just bored? Does he miss it? And there's nothing wrong with like missing being in the cage. Like, he's training. Like, look who he's training with. Like, he's training with killers. Like, he probably really misses being in there. You don't think they're like teasing him like, come on, you used to be great. Like, get back in there. Like,
you don't think he's looking at this guy holding the championship belt that he knocked out in easy fashion and walked him around the octagon and brutalized him with uppercuts, and he's not going, well, if I just do that, I'm the champ. I could do it again. I'll go fight him again. Like,
but how many fights away is he?
Title, but
how many fights away is he from that happening? Like, does he have
at light heavyweight? 1, 2.
Like, and that's the thing is we don't. And that could sell it, and that could sell a pay-per-view. So like, yeah, he could jump the line a little bit, but I don't know that he can. There's some guys I don't know if he can jump at this point, but we don't know what we're getting. I don't see a run coming. I think this is winnable for him, but I'm going to be safer with the time props here and just take the under. Either Gustafsson just doesn't have it, or Krylov will do something stupid. So those are the two most likely outcomes for me here.
I love it. And speaking of all-stars and a Swedish fighter in Alexander Gustafsson, I believe the UFC is going back to Sweden at the end of the year. Just announced that card as well. So potentially one or more of these all-star fighters, if they're able to get a quick finish or a quick win, could be turned around for that card later on this year. So storyline to pay attention to moving forward. But that being said, guys, we've got a very exciting fight here. The talk of the internet, the talk of the town. It's Paddy Pimblett at 155 pounds. He's taking on Jordan Levitt. And This is the one. This is the one that's got everybody in a tizzy this week. And got to be honest, I got to do more research on this fight. As far as Jordan Levitt goes, I know his game pretty well. I think that, he gets a little bit of an unfair bad rap at times in the UFC. He's a weirdo. He just is a bit of a strange guy. There's nothing wrong with that. But he also is a tactical guy. You can tell that he's intelligent when you listen to his interviews. He's a smart guy. But I think that he's not the world's greatest athlete. And in the UFC's lightweight division, that's going to be tough because there's just athlete on athlete on athlete. You turn over your pockets, you find 5 athletes in the UFC lightweight division. It's just like there's too many guys, I think, that will be too much for Jordan Levitt. But at the lower ends in the division, he's going to pick guys off because he's smart, right? Like the Trey Ogdens of the world. That guy could come in, maybe beat some other guys at the low end of the division with his pressure and whatever, but he just devised a game plan that was smart. Stay away from him. Don't let him touch me. Bop, 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 bop. Just pepper him with low kicks. Knew exactly what he needed to do to win. I think that in this spot, Paddy could come out here and knock him out. He could hit him with big shots, but Jordan Levitt really hasn't been getting hit cleanly in a lot of his fights. So I would want to see a little bit more evidence of that to know for sure. I think that plus 600 Paddy KO1, that was something that a lot of people were pointing out. I think that was one of the better ways to play Paddy if you were going to play a prop, because that's kind of buying into potential, right? Like if you just look, the guy's been on an absolute tear, like a roll of getting these first round knockouts. But you also have to ask a question about how sustainable that is in terms of the rate of finishing, in terms of the rate of finishing early. And also, he had that submission upside against Kazula Vargas. So when it went a little bit sketchy on the feet, he was able to take it there and bail himself out. I do think that what if Levitt is able to compete on the feet? I don't anticipate that necessarily. But if he's able to compete in that range, if he's able to keep him off with some kicks, I do think it could become interesting. The problem is he doesn't have much in terms of the hands. He doesn't have very good boxing. And I don't think that Paddy's going to respect him with his power. I don't think that he has a ton of power. I don't think that's his selling point. So maybe Paddy's able, maybe Levitt's able to, sneak behind him, hit a duck under, something like this, pull something crazy off, get his back. But I just think he's going to struggle a little bit with that physicality. Paddy's not the most physical guy in the world, but he's certainly become more physical since he got to the UFC. Draw your own determinations there. It must be something to do with that asparagus in England. But he's come into his own physically. This is a guy who used to fight at 145. I don't think he could make 145 at this stage. I think he's grown into his frame at 155 now. Man, I think that this is what's funny, man, is a lot of people are betting Levitt by decision, and I could get it on neutral territory, but I just think it's going to be hard to get, again, it's going to need to be a 30-24 Levitt, I think, where he controls every second from top position for you to be sure that you're cashing that ticket on Levitt by decision, because otherwise England's notorious, man. In boxing, in mixed martial arts, they'll screw you. They'll screw you. It just happens sometimes. So you got to know that going in. It happens, in all sorts of jurisdictions. Some people would say it happened in New York, the New York screw job, Section 9, stand up. But I think that this is a fight where I'm ultimately going to have to side with Paddy. I think he wins the fight, but I have not placed a bet on this fight. If anything, I'll probably pass on this, but I would look more towards a totals market here. I do question if Levitt's going to be able to go for the full 15. I think that's a concern I would raise on his side. And I think, again, it stems from the same thing. He's just not an elite athlete. So I think at the 10-minute mark, the 11-minute mark, we're going to start to see Levitt, really tire. If it gets to that point, Paddy has gone the 25 minutes at 145, at 155. I think that could pay dividends in terms of experience. He's got much more of it at this competition level. But Jordan Levitt's been around the game for a long time. Don't think he's a pushover. Don't think he's a terrible fighter. So I think he's going to come out and make it competitive in round 1. I just think he's probably going to get buried with the pace over time. I think Paddy's going to be able to outwork him over the course of the 15 minutes and either find a finish later or potentially win a decision here in his hometown where he gets some preferential treatment. Wizz, what do you think?
Yeah, so with this fight, I initially came into it, like when it was announced, saying that maybe Levitt has a chance here. And I mean, I still think he do, but it's 10%, if anything. That's what I'm capping it at personally. We've seen how he is on the feet, and it's atrocious stand-up game. And on the mat, pretty savvy. So in no way am I going to say that he can't sub Paddy, but Paddy is also a black belt in his own right, and he has some pretty good jiu-jitsu and grappling himself mixed in with the wrestling. I think Paddy's going to be able to stuff some takedowns early and just keep it standing for as long as he can. And I think he just cruises to a decision win here. I don't think he's going to knock him out. I don't think he's going to finish him. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any twerking or teabagging happening in this in this fight. I think Paddy has the tools. His striking's way better than Levitt's, and he's just a little bit too fast for him. So the movement's going to be key here. His side steps are pretty decent from what I've seen from his Cage Warriors tape. He's able to avoid these takedown shots from bigger guys, and he's able to just keep moving around them and circling them. And the cardio is going to pay dividends, in my opinion. The one biggest thing when you're going against a wrestler heavy approach opponent is how is your cardio going to last, because you're going to get shot at left and right. And since we've seen the tapes out there with Paddy, he's been going the 25 minutes. He's gone full fights multiple times, and the cardio hasn't been an issue. So that's where I think the line is a little bit skewed, and I could just take advantage of it. So Paddy is the second leg of that parlay that I was mentioning with Diakiese. So I have Paddy and Diakiese money line.
Fair enough. And the one thing I was going to point out is just like, if you look at the market for this fight, the market has been interesting to me, because I look in a lot of places, Paddy's being bet to minus 275, minus 280, minus 290, minus 300, right? It's being bet across the market. But then you look at the very sharp books, and he's like minus 259. He's minus 265. That's a little weird to me, because the one thing that I have in my head is like late action is going to be all over Paddy, right? Every barstool bet is going to be on Paddy, every whatever. So maybe they're trying to book more Jordan Levitt action. But then my question is like, well, if they're trying to book more Jordan Levitt action, why is his line so low? So it's just a very tricky market to me. And I'm actually going to try and learn from this market and see what I could take moving forward as well about how they book these action on huge public favorites. Because just to give you guys some perspective, right? 1 million followers on Instagram for Paddy Pimblett, massive for a UFC fighter. Jordan Levitt, 33,000. You might be saying to yourself, wow, like huge disparity. That's actually pretty good. Like for most UFC fighters, they'd be like 33,000. Oh, I'm very happy about that. And I think that just shows like the gravity difference. Paddy Pimblett is a huge star by UFC standards, whereas Jordan Levitt's just a guy on the roster as far as the UFC is concerned. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't see how Levitt wins outside of a sub. He's never winning a decision here. I mean, unless he's winning 10-7 rounds. But what I'm interested in here is this over 1.5 at minus 134 is kind of interesting. I feel like Levitt does a good job staying out of trouble. Like even in the Ogden fight, like you could argue he didn't win that fight. I mean, he won, but it's super close. But even if it's not effective striking, he's always moving. He's never standing still. He's at least doing something. Whereas Paddy, to this point, is looking for the big kill. So can Paddy knock him out? 1,000,000%. He probably will later in the fight. But I think Levitt can hang with him. I mean, Kazula Vargas took him down. I think Levitt can at least make it competitive for a round before he just falls off. And I'm going to play the over 1.5 here. Paddy's a great parlay piece. Like I said, I don't see how he loses a decision. He's got all the finish equity outside of like literally making a humongous mistake and landing in a sub. But Liam is oh, there he is.
The myth, the legend, Gordo. What's up, brother? Welcome to the show.
You know what, guys? I don't want my mic quality to be horrendous, but I am in an airport right now. So how you guys doing?
Doing good, brother. We're talking about Paddy Pimblett and Jordan Levitt. You got anything for us quick?
If Paddy loses, I'll get his haircut.
If Paddy loses, you're getting the haircut. All right, so if Paddy Pimblett loses, we got Gordo joining the Beatles. It should be a heck of a show. Should be a heck of we won't need no hats if we get Gordo with that haircut. So seems like he's a Paddy Pimblett fan this week. Is that right?
I like him. But it's nowhere that I'm really going to go to. I'm actually kind of on the over here. I don't think it's going to be as exciting as people think just because of the durability, but we'll have to see. I'm definitely cheering for a fun finish, but expectations are low.
Love it. So we've got two guys, sharp fellows on the over here. And now we got all four of the horsemen assembled. So live from the airport, this man, what can he do? Gordo Gambles live on the show. Appreciate him making it here for these main card fights. And that being said, guys, we've got the co-main event of the evening to break down. And I think this should be a hell of a damn fight. We got Chris Curtis on the one hand. He's basically been a revelation in the UFC. Come out here, gotten 3 wins. Each of them, representative of something different. Chris Curtis went out there and beat Phil Hawes. He's a good athlete with big dynamic striking, scary power, and some athletic upside. But he was able to outlast him, take some shots, deal with the shots, deal with the damage, fire back, hurt him, and take him out of there. So that was a good, impressive win. The Brendan Allen fight, able to stuff some takedowns, able to, keep it upright, able to punish him with shots to the body, pick him apart, use strategy and shot placement. And he really did a great job of doing a number on Brendan Allen and took him out quickly and efficiently. Clean performance there, I thought, against a guy who's had mixed results, certainly, but had some impressive wins and some real ups in the UFC. That was a down for him. And he was down bad after Chris Curtis was done with him. So I took that knowledge and I said, you know what? Rodolfo Vieira is different, right? He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. The guy has all the ADCC credentials. He's gotten on top of guys. He's hit them with the blast double. Even Stoltzfus, right? We just saw he put on a grappling clinic against the Dwight Grant level guys of the division in rounds 2 and 3. But, when Rodolfo Vieira said it's time to hit the floor, young man, he hit the floor. And it was a lot different. So I saw that and I see this man defend all these takedowns. And I said, wow, that's really impressive. I just came away super impressed by his composure, by his poise, and by the way he tactically changes everything up, where he approaches his opponent as a unique challenge and he treats them as such. I think that sets him up for wins. And I think that this is a very talented guy. The more I see from him, the more I see he's clever, he's smart, he works really hard, he comes in good shape, he gives you an honest effort every time. Could he lose this fight? Yeah, he could absolutely lose this fight, right? Jack is a dangerous fighter. He's extremely talented with the submissions. His front headlock game is disgusting. I copy a lot of his stuff. His seated katakatami, right? He does the basically head and arm choke from the front as like a guillotine where he locks it up, walks it to the side, sits back with it. You can't get out and it's over, right? Like money submissions. He submitted high-level black belts, GM3, David Branch with that move. So he can do that to anybody. If he did that to Chris Curtis this weekend, I'm not going to be surprised. But I do think that Chris Curtis is a tough bastard. I think he's going to make this fight very hard on Jack. And I think that Jack, he's a confidence fighter. He's a guy that really likes to feel he's bigger, stronger, better than you. And when he doesn't feel that way, I think we start to see him shell up a little bit, and we start to see him become a little bit more spastic in his movements, a little bit more reactive, and a little bit less effective. And we've seen him neutralized with a jab in more than one UFC fight. Just walked around the octagon with a jab. That happened in the Sean Strickland fight. And it also has happened to him before. To be honest with you, he's had some comeback performances. His stand-up, I don't think, has ever been what you're writing home about. It's not that. It's the fact that he's got excellent ground and pound. When he gets on top of somebody, he can really beat him up. He can do damage. Didn't do enough to Edmund Shabazian to catch me that inside the distance, you son of a gun. But I thought that the Shabazian fight was an easy opportunity for him. Shabazian is a complete gas bag. He is not very good at defending takedowns. And as he gets tired, he really doesn't do anything to defend the takedowns at all. Chris Curtis makes a lot of good decisions defending takedowns. He puts himself against the fence. He turns himself on an angle. He doesn't make it easy for you. And he tries to put himself in a position in the cage that if he does happen to get knocked off his feet, he can get back up. He can use the fence to keep himself safe, to flat back himself. Here's what I'll say. Jack can change the dynamic of this fight in an instant if he gets on top. He is an excellent top player. He has good control. But I think he's really going to struggle to get this fight to the floor. And I think that Chris Curtis has the right strikes to keep him off of him. He has good body work. He can dip to the he can dip to the body with a jab. He can throw shots, both hooking and uppercuts to the body. So he'll breadbasket you. He'll hit you to the outside as well. And we see he can throw uppercuts. And Jack has been susceptible to uppercuts his whole career. He got rocked and wobbled badly in the first round against Marvin Vettori, who then proceeded to walk him around the octagon with a jab. And I think that Chris Curtis, he's got a very effective jab when he decides to throw it. I think he's a tactical fighter, and I think he'll know what he has to do against Jack, which is pressure him backwards, force the shots out of Jack when he's uncomfortable, make him take bad attempts, make him miss, and break his confidence early, and then continue to walk him down and challenge that confidence throughout the rest of the fight. I think that's the path for him to win. I think if he treats it like the Cannonier fight, he can make this look easy. But I also think that if Jack gets on top of him, these could look like a huge favorite in hindsight. So that's why it's a pick 'em fight. I think that both guys have an honest case. Maybe you're getting a little bit of recency bias baked into the line. I do think it would normally be a minus 130, plus 110 type of deal here based on where they're at in the division. But I also think people are starting to see the writing on the wall with this Chris Curtis guy. They like him. He's active. He says yes every time they ask him to do something. And he keeps coming in and getting these knockouts and impressive performances that turn people's heads and get their attention. I think that if he does that one or two more times, he's going to be in ranked competition at the top of this division. So Chris Curtis, it's time to Esser get off the pot. He's a guy who's, right up there in age, so him and Jack are both in a similar position where it's time to go in the division right now. And I just think that Chris Curtis might be kind of rounding into that momentum, whereas Jack kind of did a little bit of that start-stop as a contender, and maybe he's in that gatekeeper role now. We'll see if he's able to slam the door in the face of Chris Curtis, but I think Chris is a very live underdog here. Or potential underdog. It's been bouncing all around. I think it's minus 105, minus 110 on either side here. Really not getting a chance at the plus money tag here. So interesting fight. Wizz, what do you think?
Yes, so I'm on the Hermansson side here. I got him at a minus 115. Chris Curtis owes me some money, and that's not the reason why I bet this, obviously. But I just have not had success fading this guy. There's glaring holes in his game. And I think Hermansson is a lot better of a wrestler than Rodolfo Vieira. Obviously, Rodolfo Vieira has
I want to run that wrestling match. I keep hearing people say that. That's my one wish. I need a Santa Claus hat for that. I want one wish. Let's get a Rodolfo versus Jack Hermansson wrestling match.
I would love that. I would love to see that. I just think Jack is the better wrestler, like I was saying. His last doubles are ridiculously powerful, and he can take anyone down with them. So, like you're mentioning, all it takes is one into those ground and pounds. Chris Curtis probably won't get knocked out. He's a tough son of a gun. Props to him. But it'll be a ref stoppage. It'll be a TKO ref stoppage. I'm not saying this is my most confident pick on the card, but I'm very, very optimistic about this one just due to the sheer fact that Jack Hermansson has fought the better level of competition in general. Way better. I mean, you look at the last couple fights, it's been Vettori. Let's leave Shahbazian out of it. But you see Vettori, Gastelum, Strickland, and he has a chin, as we've seen. He's pretty tough himself. So I don't know if he's going to get knocked out, or at least not until later on in the fight, if it lasts that long. And I just think the grappling effective game plan this time will probably work. Another thing to keep in mind is Chris Curtis has fought 5 times in the past year and 2 months. At some point, his body is going to give in. It's something that you can't really hold off. When you fight that much within a span of a year, your body falls apart. And I know he's riding the momentum and everything, and he's had a couple of quick finishes. But at the same time, it's not the damage taken, it's the damage done with the weight cuts and the training camps and just being tired overall. So that's my reasoning behind the pick. And I took him at minus 115.
I dig it. I mean, I like Jack. He's one of my favorite fighters, but I just I don't want to keep getting this Chris Curtis guy wrong, man. And I think he's better than I gave him credit for when he came to the UFC. As I've been rewatching, that's all, man. Dude, I'm saying though, even against Phil Hawes, I bet fight ends by knockout. I cashed out a Chris Curtis wins by knockout bet and bet fight ends by knockout instead. And he ended up delivering there, but man, I just was like, how did I cash out of that bet? This guy is pretty good. So I think Yes, this is the point that's important, right? He is a 170 pounder, but I do think at 185, a lot less wear and tear on the body, a lot less focus on cutting the weight. So this guy's just been showing up with a smile on his face, and a lot of other guys are on the struggle bus, and this dude's just showing up cool as a cucumber because he's also had a million fights. That's the thing. It's like Jack Hermansson, he's been around the UFC. I have tape on all his fights, but to be honest, they've been fighting a similar-ish level of competition. I think at the upper echelon, obviously Jack's fought the better guys. He didn't beat him. He lost to almost all of them. Some of them by unanimous decision. Some of them by, vicious stoppages as well. So I like Jack, but I do think that Chris Curtis hasn't had his opportunity. This is, in a lot of ways, his opportunity. So, Lou, what do you think?
I mean, this card is just full of guys that, you keep thinking, the streak's over, and they keep coming. They keep winning. The one thing I'll say about Gastelum, I'll give him a positive and a negative here, is Vieira, you saw past the 4-minute mark of that fight. Yeah, Curtis was defending takedowns, but Vieira started shooting from 10 feet out. I mean, he was so gassed that he was just telegraphing him. Hermansson doesn't do that. Hermansson's cardio is pretty good. So I think his takedown game is better. Now, that being said, the guys struggled against power punchers that are good technical strikers. Anybody that has any kind of accuracy, he has struggled against them. So Strickland just kind of made it a mess in that fight. But, against Cannonier, he just, I don't know, he was out of sorts the whole fight. I think Curtis can give him a stylistic problem. So yeah, I'm going to ride the Curtis train one more time. Sorry, Wizz. I'm going to ride the Curtis train one more time. I feel like it's the side. I don't know how you go against him at this point. Every minute this is on the feet, Curtis can knock him out. And Hermansson definitely can get hurt by this guy, to the body especially. I could see Curtis just wearing him out in the body for the first couple of minutes. But if Hermansson does get him down, Curtis has shown he can get up pretty quickly. So unless Hermansson can wrap him up in a quick sub, he may not be effective at all. Curtis has godlike stamina at this point. So give me Chris Curtis. I'm not going to play at minus 115. I'm not getting greedy with a method or a round. Minus 115 is good for me. Give me Chris Curtis to keep the Cinderella story going.
All I want to know is why couldn't they have kept Aaron Till on this card, man? By hook or by crook, all I wanted was to bet Jack Hermansson by sub for all the units. That's all I wanted, because that would have been a lot easier. I would have been a lot more confident about that. This guy, Chris Curtis, is defending takedowns.
Did you see the thing about Till not being in his corner?
Yeah, I mean, I don't give a shit about any of that. I don't even think about that.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I did think it was funny, but just in terms of how I cap it in the fight, nothing. What's up, Wizz?
Point this out. If you look at the last 5 fights on Hermansson's record, it's loss, win, loss, win, loss. No, I'm not saying it's a thing, but do what you want.
Well, I'd hate to break a trend, but sometimes it just has to happen. I loved what Chris Curtis said when he announced this fight. He put up a picture of him punching a hole through somebody's chest in a comic book thing, and it said, to those who dare is victory. I think that he's going to give himself every chance. He's a fun guy, and he's a real fighter. So he's going to fight for your money, but Jack might just be too much physically. So should be an excellent fight, well matched. 2 guys that really have a goal and a dream, and one of them is going to get a big opportunity coming out of this one. So I'm excited to see who it will be. 2 guys that have paid all of the dues you could pay in that middleweight division. So that being said, guys, we've got a heavyweight main event to break down. That's the last thing that we've got for you. So make sure that you've gone ahead and liked this video already. If you haven't, do it right now. If you have not got subscribed to this channel, go ahead and get subscribed. Each and every week, we're back here breaking down the fights from a betting perspective, bottom of the card all the way up to the top, breaking down all these fights for you guys. And to be honest with you, we've been doing a very good job. So appreciate all the support. Appreciate all you guys being here. Sharpest chat in the game. Mean that when I say that. And we got 176 people rocking with us live at 2:10 in the morning. So I can't thank you guys enough. And I can't thank these 2 gentlemen enough. My man Gordo for stopping by as well. Absolute blessings all around. But we've got a great heavyweight clash here to break down. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it to my man Wizz, and I'm going to ask you what you think of this great fight between Tom Aspinall, the local guy, the local attraction, the local flavor. He's taking on Curtis Blaydes. big step up in competition. This is no Alexander Volkov. Volkov got the tour of the octagon when he fought Curtis Blaydes. He got taken down 20 times, had a competitive fight there. Curtis Blaydes, not as lethal a finisher, not as big of single shot power, not as reliable to go for submissions on the ground. In fact, he's never gone for a submission attempt in the UFC. However, he is a dangerous guy. When he gets on top of you, we've seen it. He could rearrange somebody's face with his elbows. It can be very bad. Alistair Overeem was spewing blood like a fountain. It was disgusting. Similarly, he can knock somebody out on the feet. Chris Daukaus, fancies himself a boxer. He made too quick a turnaround there, I would argue, but he got blown out on the feet. He didn't really land much of significance. And I like the Daukaus brothers. I think that they're good fighters, but that was questionable to me. So now we've got Aspinall here. He's riding high. He's riding off these fumes. He flipped in the line last time, and that ended up being the right side pretty clearly, right? He gets on top of him twice. Every time he went for a takedown, he got it. Was busting him up on the feet as well. But I think that True Shot hit on a good point. Volk was off that night. Something was wrong with him. I think that he looked, not very well put together in that fight. I think that as far as I'm concerned, I still have some questions, right? Is Aspinall a potential next big thing? Yeah, he really is. His hand speed is different than most heavyweights, for sure, categorically. His footwork is not bad, but I do have questions about how this guy is going to be able to make it work over 5 rounds, because he doesn't have a style that looks like you could do it for 5 rounds. When he's blitzing people and throwing heavy combinations, I thought it almost looked like a sign of desperation in that Arlovsky fight when he went for the takedown. Did it turn out well? Yes. Did he end up getting him out of there instantly? Yes. Did he look like a beast on the ground? All those things. Is he going to take down Curtis Blaydes? That's going to be a touch more difficult, I think. Can he? Yes, because Tom Aspinall's big. He's not a small man. He's fast, and he might be able to level change on Curtis. Sometimes Curtis, if I can make a criticism of him, it's that his stance doesn't always benefit his wrestling. So he stands pretty upright when he's striking and then has to level change all the way. So what do you think Derek Lewis did? He literally stood there with a cocked up uppercut and waited for this man to level change, saw it from a mile away, and then punished him with the uppercut. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. Not everybody has that kind of singular power, but Tom Aspinall's fast, and he could see when you're trying to do something like that. And to be honest, he's got one really good combination. He's pulled it off several times where he throws a knee to the body as somebody tries to step in on him, and then he breaks with an elbow, and he put Sergey Spivak down bad with that. He hurt Jake Collier instantly with that as well. I mean, Jake Collier is obviously a little bit soft to the body there coming off the couch, but I mean, still, he butchered him really fast. He's got some good skills, man. He's got some talent, some abilities in all positions, and I don't think that it's as easy as like Curtis gets a takedown and the fight's over. But I do think Curtis is just a more proven commodity over 5 rounds. That's what I keep coming back to. I do think that Aspinall is probably the guy who's got more finishing upside early. If you look at the first 7.5 minutes of this fight and the fight ends, I think more often than not, that's an Aspinall bet. I think that's an Aspinall cash. But I think that when we start seeing this fight tick over 7.5, 8 minutes, that's when the pendulum might swing back in the Curtis Blaydes direction. There's footage from 1 year ago on BT Sport where Tom Aspinall says about Curtis Blaydes, he's like, man, he's my favorite fighter in the division. I love that guy's style. He mixes in the wrestling and the striking beautifully. And he's like, and I think that, he might get on top of me and that would be a tough fight for me. I didn't love to hear that, But here's my problem with Curtis, right? As I dug into the numbers on this fight, Curtis Blaydes has never lost a fight and absorbed more than 43 strikes. So, who's getting him out of there? Guys that can hit him. Guys that can hit him hard and make him pay. Guys that can punish him in the first couple rounds. Guys that have, punching upside. Francis Ngannou has got punching upside. Derek Lewis has big punching upside. That's what they had. That's what they brought to the table. I think that this is a tough fight. If you try and kick with Curtis Blaydes, it's going to take you down. It's going to set him up for takedowns. If you just got really fast hands and you pick your spots and you've got better footwork and you move around him, I'm not sure that Aspinall can't pull that off and can't knock him out in the first 2 rounds by doing that, because Curtis is, fighting on the edge when he's boxing. He's doing that subtle head movement and whatever. Maybe that works against Daukaus. Maybe it doesn't work here. I think that Daukaus and Aspinall would have been a great fight, and people had talked about that as like a potential fight on the way up. I think that now, based on what we've seen, I would favor Aspinall. to win that because he's got a little bit more of that hand speed and he might have, similar power overall. I think that that's not good because his jiu-jitsu offensively appears to be some of the most effective in the heavyweight division. So I think that that's something we got to reckon with, right? Volkov, off night, whatever, he got put in 2 Kimuras. The second one, he switched to a straight arm lock. When's the last time you've seen somebody straight arm locked in the UFC? Doesn't happen a lot. That was pretty slick. That was interesting that he was able to pull that off. What I do have some concerns about is the fight that he lost regionally against Stuart Austin, I believe is his name, doesn't age well. That's not a good loss. I don't think Stuart Austin's a bad fighter or anything, but just the way he lost, the way he was conducting himself in that fight does leave some question marks. He's grown up since then. He's made improvements. He looked very mature in his last outing. He looks like he's very confident and prepared for this fight. But I do just think that this fight has, banana peel written all over it, I think, on either side. Like, this could be the UFC trying to build up Tom Aspinall. He gets taken down once by, I saw it in his last fight. He almost slipped, and Volkov almost got on top of him. He, missed him with a drive-by uppercut by a half an inch. Tom Aspinall kind of got off balance trying to throw a kick from too close in range. I think if he makes a mistake like that, it could be, something that costs him the fight. Right? Like if Curtis gets on top of him, drains a bunch of the gas out of his tank, and then he can't hit as effectively, maybe that changes the complexion of the fight. But I just think the danger factor is heavily weighted towards Tom Aspinall. That's something I can't ignore. I get why he's a slight favorite here. I do not have a play yet on this fight. Missed the number, missed the movement a little bit on the fight not to go the distance, but I do think that this favors a finish in both directions. I think that in rounds 3, 4, and 5, Curtis Blaydes is extremely live to finish. I think that in rounds 1, 2, and 3, Tom Aspinall is very live to finish. So I kind of think that cardio is a big dynamic here. Just because Tom hasn't proven it doesn't mean he has bad cardio. But I'm saying there are indicators to suggest that he has bad cardio. That's the truth. There's indicators to suggest he may be suspect in the cardio based on what we've seen so far in the UFC. But I thought last fight he did a much better job pacing himself as well. When he was on top, deep breaths, he was looking around. Before he would open up with ground and pound, he would listen to his coaches. He seems like a very coachable guy. And I think that if he fights well and listens to good advice, he can definitely beat Curtis Blaydes. He's a beatable fighter. But I also think that Curtis Blaydes is well-seasoned. He's not going to give you a free win in the UFC. And he's beaten a lot of guys he wasn't supposed to as well. So I'm not going to count him out. And he's never been an underdog in the UFC. That is pretty interesting to me from a trend perspective, but he has lost a few times as a massive favorite. So part of that is market overconfidence in Curtis Blaydes that is being corrected, but part of that is also, a potential liability, where now that he's slipped into what have you done for me lately category, Tom Aspinall has been doing a lot for people lately with these big finishes. And when you talk about what action the book is going to get, I mean, absolutely. If the arena in London was any indication last time, everybody in England is a Tom Aspinall fan. So I think that he is going to get a lot more action come fight night. And I think that I would not be surprised if Curtis Blaydes hits the plus 130 number, something like that. I would not be surprised if we saw minus 150 on Tom Aspinall. I do think because it's heavyweight and there's more unknowns, it might push it closer to 50-50. But still, I do think, that is something that we have to keep in mind as well, as the bookmaker is going to take late action in all likelihood towards that Tom Aspinall side based on the public. Wizz, what do you think about this fight? Are you intrigued? Do you have any bets?
Very intrigued with this one. I bet on Tom Aspinall his last fight against Volkov. I bet on him multiple fights during this win streak. So I'm a big fan. But there's questions that need to be answered. And quite frankly, I'm backing the guy that has answered those questions for me. The cardio is a big issue, especially in this division. When you're moving as much as Aspinall's moving and when you're throwing as much volume, it's going to drain you. And if I haven't seen this guy past the 7.5 minute mark or second round mark, I'm like, am I that confident picking in him against someone who might be able, I'm not saying he is going to do this, but might be able to take him down multiple times in rounds and just lay on him and just ground and pound him until the bell sirens. So I'm on Blaydes. I got him at plus 115, and I hit him again earlier before I took this bet at plus 105. So That's the side I'm leaning on. I think Blaydes is going to be able to drag the fight past that 7.5 to 8.5 minute mark in the fight and start exerting his cardio dominance over Aspinall. I know Aspinall might look like a hindsight minus 300 in the first round, and that's the part that scares me. So I'm going to be sweating this first round to first round and a half. After that, I think Curtis Blaydes, if it does last that long, handily. After that mark, if the fight lasts past it, I think Blaydes just takes over and dominates. So this is the one fight where decisions in London could go to the American fighter because of the late round dominance. Other than that, that's my only take. I'm not like too invested in the fight itself, but I do want to play the under 3.5 as well. I do see that as the violence play for this week, and it's at good value. I think the fight ends in a KO either way.
Yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense to me. And one of the things I did notice is some of the books were starting to move off the 3.5. So, most of the time you see a main event total open up, it's 4.5. Not always, but most of the time. And now we're seeing that instead it's 3.5, right? Heavyweight, that's not too uncommon. But some of the sharper books, they just moved it down to 2.5, which I think is a pretty strong suggestion that they were leaning towards the under for the 3.5, right? It's like, for me, I think that that's something to keep in mind. Make sure you're getting the best of the prices and do some shopping, some comparison there if you're going to get involved, because I've seen it priced very differently across the market. Lou, what do you think about this fight, my brother? Do you have any plays in the main event? What do you like?
I don't have any plays yet. I think there's a narrative that it's being set up for Aspinall, which I'll get to in a second, but at some point there's going to be a number on Blaydes that I can't pass up. I mean, you're talking about it getting to plus 130. This could very easily get to plus 150. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if all the steam came in. So right now I don't have a position on it. The closest thing I have here to making a decision, I think Blaydes can have the better game plan and can fatigue him. The reason I haven't acted yet is I can't get out of my head Blaydes looking really good against Lewis for one round and then getting sent into the 5th row. And it was a perfect shot, and I understand it. But Aspinall is a huge, huge guy with that kind of insane sick power. He could get Blaydes out of there with one shot. And that's and that is the scary part. That's what Wizz is scared of too. Like, he does have one shot power. It's not Blaydes has to even make a mistake. So I'm kind of playing the wait and see approach. I'm going to be in the time props, but I think if Blaydes hits plus 150 or 145, I think you have to at least take the guy with the 5-round experience, with a lot of tools. I mean, and every fight he's been in is so weirdly objectively different. Like Diakiese, he just stood the whole time. Rosenstrike, he made it the most boring fight possible. Volkov, he had 938 takedowns. I don't know what his DraftKings score was. It was probably like 800 just for that one fight. But he kind of shows something every time. But I don't know what the strategy is against Aspinall. If the strategy is try to ground him and tire him out, he's capable of doing that. But Aspinall has it looks like he has a pretty good get-up game from everything I've seen. So I don't know Blaydes kept taking down Volkov and really didn't do any damage to him. So if Aspinall's not hurt and keeps getting up without any damage, there's no reason he can't get him once. And what if Aspinall gets a sweep and gets on top of him? Blaydes takedown defense, by the way, in the UFC, not like it's been tested a lot, but I think it's sub 40%. Nobody really tries to take him down. But what if Aspinall came and said, I don't care, I'll take him down? We don't see Blaydes on the bottom too often, and Aspinall's not the kind of guy you want to top from. So I'm waiting on a position to see the line movement. If there's buyback, that's different, but there's going to be a price where maybe I have to get to Blaydes. But the fight to end in KO is a must for me, and the unders are a must. They're parlay pieces, but skill set wise, I still I think Blaydes has a slight edge, but he doesn't have the one thing that can change the fight the most. So let's see where the price goes before I make an actual track bet.
Yeah, and this is another one of those fights where we're going to get our answers, right? That's at least the hope. I think that that's really the hang-up some people have had with Tom Aspinall. It's not like we don't watch his fights and go, oh, this is a very good fighter. It's that you come away from it saying, I just want to know what it would look like if it looks this way. Because we've seen in the past some reasons for skepticism, but that doesn't mean that he can't improve on that. He's a young guy. He's a big prospect at heavyweight. He's a literal big guy at heavyweight. Like, he is big and fast and can hit hard and has jiu-jitsu. It's like, that's pretty good archetype for a heavyweight. If you were going to build one on UFC, the video game or whatever. But I do think as well, Curtis Blaydes just has a proven style. The market has loved this guy overall. I don't think that's for no reason. He's performed ably in the UFC, but this is a big ask for both guys. So competitively lined fight seems appropriate to me. I'm not going to plant my flag. I'm going to watch. I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to be excited to see how it shakes out. But for me, a little bit more information needed to make a strong determination on these guys. I think both of them could compete for heavyweight championships in the next 5 years in the UFC. I believe in both these guys having that potential. So it should be a good fight. Should be a great questions answered. And I truly appreciate my two great guests for coming on. We've had an excellent conversation, but it's time to cut you guys loose, get you out of here before 2:30 in the morning. So my man, Wizz, please let the people know, where can they find you, brother? And thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it and really have fun doing these shows every Thursday night. So whenever you need me, I'm here. You can find me on Twitter at WizzBets, YouTube as well at WizzBets. I'm going to start uploading some content really soon. And we're putting up these baseball plays, these UFC plays, all these bets on different sports, day in, day out. And the track record's all there. You can scroll back through the tweets and you can see the success rate. And just hopefully we can cash this weekend all together, because we've been running hot.
King of the NRFI. All his information is in that description box below. So get you some more Wizz bets. It will only be good for your bank account. Lou, please tell the people about the engine. Tell the people where they can find you, my brother. And thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure as always, work with you guys. Too bad Gordo couldn't get his Wi-Fi internet fixed in Parsippany, New Jersey, or wherever he is. But find me at Lou BetMMA on Twitter, MMA Engine YouTube channel. And Wizz is the king of the NRFI bets, and Liam is the king of MMA bets. Well, we're 2 weeks away from the English Premier League, Bundesliga, and all the Euro soccer leagues coming back. So if you want a degenerate gamble at 7:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, you let me know. I'm not touting, like, happy to do it. It's fun. And despite what Man in Library says, I'm glad that he's here too. So hope you guys have a great night. Thanks again. Let's get that money again, just like last week, Liam.
Yes, sir. Each and every week, guys, we're going to try and put you in a better position to steer your money. From there, make your own decisions. You guys are adults. You guys are all smart people. But just trying to put you in a position to know where we're looking, what we think about these fights, how you can start to think about these fights and put yourself in a good position to make money long term. Because at the end of the day, knowledge is power. If you learn more about this, you will do better. And each and every day I learn from these guys. That's why I bring them on. I always learn something from the people in the chat as well. So each and every one of you guys that contributes to this show, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for your support, liking the show, subscribing. We're over 1,600 subscribers, and we just continue to grow over here. So guys, get subscribed. Tell a friend about this show. We've been making you some money on this show. I'm not going to lie to you. We've been making you some coins. So if you appreciate that, tell somebody about the show. It means a lot to me. If you guys are interested in more of my thoughts, I put this stuff down in a written format. I spend a lot of time, effort, and energy on it. You'll be able to find that scoresandodds.com. You'll be able to find that on Roto Grinders as well, and OddsJam. So 3 different places, 3 different articles. A lot of information is going to be coming your way. I'm going to be up late getting it done. So do me the favor and read it. I'd really appreciate it. Give me your feedback. And guys, go ahead and comment below what your favorite play is. I will get back to you in this YouTube comment section. I appreciate when you guys interact with the show. Curious to hear where you guys ended up based on the breakdowns. So guys, that's it. I'm going to cut you loose. Thank you guys all so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Come back next week. We're going to enjoy the fights each and every week. God bless you all. Enjoy those fights. Until next time, come back. We're going to have all the same fun again.